Chapter 590. Then, Su Qianxi seemed to think of something and stared at him. Her eyes were wet, and she said in a trembling voice, "Do you think I am lying to you, uncle?" Sister-in-law, calm down. Li Jinnan did not panic at all in the face of her questioning. Just after Su Qianxi finished the story, he already had a guess in his mind. However, this guess was just a guess, and Li Jinnan needed to verify it. At this moment, facing Su Qianxi's attitude, Li Jinnan looked as usual and whispered to her, "I believe in my brother. Sister-in-law, now there is a most direct way, that is to expose the true face of Tang Qing." Su Qianxi sat down, holding her head, and found it difficult to accept. She knew where he was, and she knew that he was suffering. But why couldn't she find him back? Why couldn't they do anything about it? Tang Minjing has been pretending to be Tang Qing for so long. It is not easy to reveal her true identity to the world. Li Jinnan looked at her, and his eyes were even more bottomless. Faintly, there was a shadow of Li Xiqing in them. He was very calm and said, "My brother has been trapped for so long. It's not easy to break through there and save him all at once. If we call the police, not to mention whether my brother can accept being in jail, maybe when the police just arrive at the door, they will transfer him. What should we do? What should we do?" Su Qianxi completely lost her mind at this moment. Hearing this, she yelled at Li Jinnan, "Are you just going to sit back and do nothing? I have been looking for him for so many years. Do you want me to give up like this?" Soon there was the sound of the door opening, and the light was turned on. Su Qianxi wiped her tears, leaned on the sofa, and did not move. Qin Shuhua and Li Xiao both came out, wearing pajamas. Seeing them like this, the couple looked at each other. Qin Shuhua's face was worried, while Li Xiao's face was as calm as water, looking at this side. Li Jinnan did not seem to notice that they were behind. Looking at Su Qianxi, he said calmly, "Leave this matter to me, sister-in-law. I will give you a reply as soon as possible." "What is it?" The old man walked over with his walking stick. "It's the middle of the night, and your uncle and sister-in-law are actually quarreling?" "No." Su Qianxi sniffed and said in a nasal voice. She walked toward Grandpa and held his arm. "We didn't fight. Grandpa, let me help you back." The old man didn't go back. He looked at Li Jinnan and said, "Jinnan, did you make your sister-in-law angry?" Li Jinnan stood up, wearing simple casual home clothes. He looked at Su Qianxi and said, "No, I just have something to discuss with my sister-in-law. Now that it's all settled, I'll go back." Ouch. Qin Shuhua's heart ached for him. She grabbed him and said, "It's so late. You should sleep at home. Your room has always been tidy. It's not a big deal." "No, I still have something to deal with. Mom, go to bed early." Li Jinnan patted Qin Shuhua's hand comfortingly. He glanced at Su Qianxi before turning and walking out the door. Chapter 591. Su Qianxi choked and shook her head. It was better not to tell the elders about things that she was not sure about. If they could not save Li Xiqing, they would have to worry about him with them. Seeing her eyes swollen from crying, Qin Shuhua did not say anything. She told Su Qianxi to go to bed early and went into the room with Li Xiao. When Li Jinnan returned home, he took out the computer, logged into his social media account, and searched for L's account. Li Xiqing. Li Jinnan's fingers moved quickly and sent a short message. Li Xiqing was processing the documents and saw the code on the computer. He clicked it and a message popped up. Frowny face Li 3. "Since you can send a message, why don't you come back?" Li Xiqing looked at the nickname, Li 3 Li San. It was really Li San's style. Li Xiqing's cold eyes were deeper. Looking at Li Jinnan's questioning words, he pursed his lips, put his fingers on the keyboard, and typed a line of words. "It's not time yet." However, after thinking about it, Li Xiqing still deleted that line of words and replied, "I'm fine. Don't worry about me." The sound of high heels came from outside. Li Xiqing's eyes narrowed, and he typed Dell. The temporary desktop suddenly collapsed. On the computer desktop, there was only one unfinished document left. Tang Minjing walked in and saw Li Xiqing typing the document. She chuckled proudly. "Not bad, Jingsa. Make sure he takes his medicine on time tomorrow." "Yes, Miss Tang." Li Xiqing looked at her back, and his eyes became colder. Soon. When Li Jinan saw those words, he immediately replied, "Where are you?" No response. Li Jinan looked at the computer screen and was silent for a long time. He took a cigarette pack on the table, took out a cigarette, and slowly lit it. Lying on the sofa, he narrowed his eyes and fell into contemplation. The signing with TL was scheduled for Friday afternoon. It was Li Jinan. Su Qianxi could not calm down in the office. She couldn't wait to know the extent of the confrontation between him and Tang Menjing. Just when she was feeling anxious, she received a call from home. Seeing the word old house, Su Qianxi adjusted her mood and picked it up. "Hello, Mom." Hearing the sweet voice, Su Qianxi's anxious heart was immediately soothed. She unconsciously smiled and responded, "Mom, Great-Grandpa said that tomorrow is Saturday." Li Jinyue's voice was very soft, very sweet and tender, making Su Qianxi's heart melt. Sitting on the chair, she stretched and asked softly, "What's wrong with Saturday?" Li Jianyue looked at the old man in front of her, who had a look of anticipation on his face. She said the lines that the old man had prepared for her. "Ursa wants to go to the amusement park. Daesu and brother Mosin want to go too. Mommy will take us to the amusement park to play tomorrow. Okay?" Tomorrow. Su Qianxi seemed to think about it. Does Ursa want to go herself? Li Jianyue hesitated for a moment and looked at the old man who was instructing her. The old man was so anxious that he mouthed, "Yes, you're right." Li Jianyue looked distressed. She nodded and said, "I want to go myself, but." The little girl's words made the old man anxious. He covered his face with his dry hands and couldn't bear to look at it. Chapter 592. Seeing her great-grandfather like this, Ursa was amused and said with a smile, "But Daesu wants to go more than I do, but he is too embarrassed to call you. So he asked me to call him. Is Ursa very obedient?" Su Qianxi heard that there was something wrong with Ursa's voice, but she did not think much and chuckled. "You only know how to trick your brother. It must be you who wants to go, little girl." Li Jianyue smiled and said, "I did not. I am a little princess, not a little girl. So are we going tomorrow or not?" "Well, let's go. I haven't taken you out for a long time." "Oh yeah," Li Jianyue cheered. "Then let's go to the amusement park tomorrow. I will tell my brother. Bye, Mom." "Bye." Su Qianxi's smile became wider and wider, and her mood suddenly became a lot better. Hanging up the phone, she looked at the phone screen and found that there was another missed call. A long-lost name, Rong Haiyue. Su Qianxi looked at this name, picked up the phone, and called Rong Haiyue back. The other side quickly picked up, and Rong Haiyue's voice sounded a bit surprised. "Su Qianxi?" "Yes," Su Qianxi responded. "What's the matter?" "I have arrived in Kingstown with your mother. Can I go to your house and see the two little guys?" Rong Haiyue's voice was cautious and tentative, as if he was afraid of offending her. In the past few years, Rong Haiyue had always talked to her like this. Without the magnanimity of a savior or the dignity of a father, he always carefully wanted to please her and get close to her. Su Qianxi knew that he wanted her forgiveness. Hearing this, Su Qianxi pursed her lips, feeling a little guilty and distressed. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do this." However, before she said it, Rong Haiyue said, "I bought toys for the children. Ursa should like dolls at her age, right? And Daesu, I don't know what he likes, so I bought some storybooks. If it is not convenient to go home, I will go to your company and send the things to you. You can pick them up, okay? Go home." Su Qianxi felt sad and inexplicably sour. "The children are at home. You and she can go there directly. I am still busy and will go back later." Rong Haiyue was overjoyed. "That's great, After saying that, she seemed to realize that her reaction might be a little too loud, and her voice became a little softer. She said, "Then you go ahead with your work, I'll go over there, you come back early." "Yes. Then goodbye? See you later." When Rong Haiyue heard this, he suddenly felt that the world was bright. He could hear the excitement in his voice. "Well, see you later." She hung up the phone and leaned against the chair exhausted. This way of getting along was so tiring. Su Qianxi still could not calm down to deal with business, so she simply piled everything together and took it home. When he got home, Rong Haiwei and Rong Xian were already at home. They were playing with new toys with the children in the living room. Seeing Su Qianxi coming in, Li Jianyue was the most excited. Holding the big Barbie doll that Rong Haiwei bought for her, she ran to her and shouted, "Mom, look, Rong Haiwei bought me a doll. It's so beautiful." Su Qianxi squatted down and picked her up with a smile. She tapped her nose and said, "What, Rong Haiwei, call him Grandpa?" Chapter 593. Call him Grandpa. The 3 words scared Rong Haiwei so much that the one-piece figurine that he gave to Li Jianxian fell to the ground. Rong Xian also looked at Su Qianxi with disbelief on her face. Li Jianxian saw it and immediately got off the sofa, picked up Zorro, and patted the dust. He was about to say something, but after seeing the subtle expressions between the adults, he swallowed his words. Seeming to have noticed their gazes, Su Qianxi also looked in their direction. There were traces of fire scars on Rong Haiwei's face and body. Because it was summer, Rong Haiwei wore a simple short-sleeved striped t-shirt, revealing the faint scars on his neck, hands, and face. Not much, and because of maintenance it had faded a lot. However, Su Qianxi knew that it was the most accurate evidence that Rong Haiwei almost lost his life for them. Seeing their eyes, Su Qianxi smiled at them and blushed slightly. Li Jianrui, who was more than 3 years old, did not notice the subtle atmosphere between the adults. Tilting her head, she said, "Grandpa? But Grandpa Song is also a grandpa. Only Mom's father is called Grandpa. I already have a grandpa, so who should I call Grandpa in the future? Grandpa Song is also a grandpa, and Grandpa Rong is also a grandpa." Su Qianxi put her forehead on Li Jianrui's forehead, gently rubbed and whispered, "In the future, he is a grandpa, and Rong Xian is a grandma. Come, call them." Li Jianrui held the doll in her hand and turned to look at Rong Xian and Rong Haiwei. She said in a sweet voice, "Grandpa, Grandma." When Rong Haiwei heard it, he suddenly laughed, and his eyes were filled with warmth, but he quickly restrained himself. He bowed his head slightly and nodded. "Good girl." Little Li Jianxian was facing Rong Haiwei. Seeing that his eyes were obviously wet, he opened his eyes and looked at him. This feeling was a bit strange. He thought that Rong Haiwei was a tough guy. He heard that he was a very powerful soldier, just like Grandpa. However, he had only seen the scene of Grandpa majestic and domineering, and had never seen Grandpa cry. Shouldn't Rong Haiwei be the same as Grandpa? Even because of the scars on Rong Haiwei's body, Li Jianxian felt that Rong Haiwei was more ruthless than Li Xiao. But now, Grandpa, Li Jianxian blinked and looked at Rong Haiwei. "Are there any other models?" Rong Haiwei nodded and reached out to pick him up. His voice was obviously tinged with some relief and joy. He replied, "Yes." Li Jianxian never liked to be hugged, but it was obvious that he was happy. Forget it. For the sake of the figurine, he had to endure the humiliation. Su Qianxi, Rong Xian was not as tolerant as Rong Haiwei. Her tears fell, but there was a big smile on her face. Li Jianyue's eyes were full of surprise. "Hey, Grandma is crying." "Why?" Rong Xian wiped her tears and shook her head. "I'm happy. I didn't cry. Come, let me hug you." She stood up and reached out to Li Jianyue. Li Jianyue grabbed the doll and stuck her body to Rong Xian. She said, "Grandma, the doll hasn't worn panties yet. I have to let her wear panties. Can you find me panties?" "Okay, come on, Ursu, look inside and see which one looks like a pair of underpants." Li Mosen stood at the edge of the corridor in the living room and watched from afar. His eyes were full of envy. Chapter 594. He also wanted to have a mother, grandparents, little uncles and big uncles who loved him so dearly. However, he was not expected by the world since he was born. His biological mother, just before he was 1 month old, wanted to throw him to death. This incident was spread as a joke in the orphanage, and he was laughed at by all the children. He was a monster, because he looked like a foreigner, so his biological mother wanted to throw him to death. Thinking of this, little Mosen had an inferiority complex in his heart, and the uncontrollable sadness made him at a loss. Biting his lip, Li Mosen looked over there, let go of the hand on the wall, and turned around. "Mosen!" Su Qianxi's voice. Li Mosen was about to leave, and looked over with some surprise. Su Qianxi's delicate face showed a gentle smile, and she was waving at him. Li Mosen ran over excitedly and shouted, "Auntie, why did you come out so late?" Rong Xian rebuked, and took another gift box from the side. "This is for you. Open it and see if you like it." Li Mosen felt even more surprised and looked at Rong Xian incredulously. His little heart was pounding. "Really, this is for me?" Rong Xian nodded with a smile and reached out to rub his little head. "You've grown so big. How old are you?" Li Mosen looked at her, and there was a ruddy luster on his snow-white and smooth face. He said, 4.5 years old. Li Mosen was a little nervous, but more than that, there was a kind of emotion that he still couldn't understand. His heart was slightly sour, the tip of his nose was slightly astringent, and his eyes were a little hot, but Li Mosen's heart was happy. Very happy, very happy. "I'm just a little older than them." Su Qianxi pulled Li Mosen over and held him at her feet. She whispered, "Thank Grandma." Li Mosen held the box and looked up at Su Qianxi. The woman on top of his head was really smiling at him. So gentle, just like his mother's smile in his dream. Li Mosen felt like crying. But at this time, if he cried out, it would be too shameful. Holding back his tears, Li Mosen asked in a choked voice, "Should I call her Grandma too?" "But, hey, Brother Mosen is crying." Li Jianyue held the doll in her arms. Her round eyes widened as if she had discovered a new continent. "Is Brother Mosen crying?" Li Mosen immediately pulled a long face and said, "I didn't. But I clearly heard you cry. Are you crying because you don't want to call me Grandma?" "Humph, too bad. I didn't." Li Mosen deliberately put on a straight face, but soon, a pair of blue eyes grew, looked at Rong Xian and said, "Thank you, Grandma. Be good." Rong Xian stroked his dark brown curly hair and pinched his face. "You're so good looking, just like a doll." "Grandma, I'm pretty." Li Jianyue was unhappy. She rubbed herself in Rong Xian's arms, pouted and said coquettishly, "I'm prettier than Brother Mosen. The teachers in the kindergarten all say that I'm the prettiest little princess. Right, brother?" Li Jianxian was playing with Luffy's hand and didn't hear what his sister was saying. Li Jianyue kicked his hand unhappily and asked, "Do I look good?" "Yes." Li Jianxian didn't look up and said directly, "Ursu is the prettiest." Chapter 595. Perfunctory, obviously perfunctory. The adults all laughed when they heard it, but Li Jianyue still didn't understand what was wrong. Seeing the adults laughing, she was a little proud. "Brother Mosen, am I the most beautiful?" "Yes, Ursu is the most beautiful." Li Mosen looked serious, and a pair of blue eyes looked at Li Jianyue's pink little face, shining with a strange brilliance. Li Jianyue was even happier, proudly raised her chin and snorted, and then looked at the box in Li Mosen's hand with her eyes shining. "Don't you want to see what Grandma gave you? Look." Li Mosen looked at her expectant eyes and pretended to be serious with a straight face. He couldn't help but smile, put the gift box on the table, and untied the ribbon. Li Jianyue stretched her neck and looked over, and saw the dark metal luster at a glance. She blinked and asked, "What is this?" Li Mosen took out the things inside, and found that they were small parts, and there was a big picture of a car in the middle. "Assembly car?" Li Mosen's eyes lit up, and he couldn't wait to open the packaging. A pile of small dark metal fell down, and Li Mosen held it in his hand, a little excited. "It's really an assembly car, so beautiful." Li Jianyue held the doll and said with some disdain, "What's beautiful about it? It's dark." But when Li Jianxian heard the words assembly car, his eyes immediately raised from the doll and looked over. His eyes lit up, and he immediately got down from Rong Haiyue's leg and ran up. "Wow, it's really an assembly car." Li Jianxian rubbed his hands. "Mosen, let's do it together." "I can do it too." "Okay." Li Mosen carefully put the parts back, and his face couldn't hide the joy. Li Jianyue was a little unhappy, and she pouted and struggled to get down from Rong Xian. She leaned over and said, "I want to do it too. Go away. You only know how to make trouble." Li Jianxian unceremoniously threw her a contemptuous look. Li Jianyue's little face puffed up, and she took Li Mosen's hand. "Brother Mosen, I want to play too." Li Mosen smiled and held her palm with his little hand. He said, "Okay, let's do it together. Brother Mosin is the best." Li Jianyue smiled and snorted at Li Jianxian. She forced her way between the two of them. Seeing this, Su Qianxi couldn't help but laugh. She helped them pick up the parts and said, "Let's go inside and play. Daesu, take Mosin and his sister in." Okay. Li Jianxian was a little excited, but he did not forget to put on the figurine behind him. Just like that, Li Mosin held the gift box in one hand, and Li Jianyue in the other. The little princess was also holding a doll in her arms. Li Jianxian, on the other hand, was holding a few figurines. He followed them calmly, but his pace could not hide his excitement. Watching the children jumping in, she sat at the coffee table, pressed the button to boil the water, and replaced the tea leaves. She then brewed some pu'er tea that she had recently gotten. His movements were slow and smooth, elegant and skillful. "Is there anything you need to do in Kingstown this time?" Su Qianxi asked without looking up as she made tea. Chapter 596. You can come often in the future. Su Qianxi used the lid of the teacup to scrape the foam. When she spoke, her hand was slightly shaking. "The children were still complaining a few days ago that you did not come to see them. It just so happens that I want to learn how to shoot." Then she looked up at Rong Haiyue. "Can you teach me?" "Of course." Rong Haiyue agreed without thinking, a little excited. Rong Xian looked at Su Qianxi, a little dazed. After 4 years, her daughter had undoubtedly grown a lot. Her cheeks, which used to be soft and round, had now lost some of their childishness, replaced by a bit of maturity and competence. Even the way she spoke and did things were impeccable. Does this mean that she accepts them? Rong Xian cried with joy, but no one said it clearly. After drinking tea and eating some snacks, Su Qianxi took an air gun and handed it to Rong Haiyue. In the vast backyard, there were rattan targets left by Li Jinnan, which had not been cleared. This air gun was also Li Jinnan's. After Su Qianxi drove the children away, she practiced with Rong Haiyue. The air gun was much lighter than a pistol and had an automatic loading function. Su Qianxi and Rong Haiyue were learning how to aim today. Rong Haiyue's marksmanship was also very famous in the army. Almost every shot was around the bull's eye, and the deviation was not big. And Su Qianxi's accuracy made Rong Haiyue laugh. "With your accuracy, fortunately, there is no one behind. Otherwise, there will be an accident. It's just an air gun, not a pistol." Su Qianxi did not care much, holding the gun and aiming at the rattan targets. Li Jianxian and Li Mosin had already installed the small car. Li Jianyue was in the room, holding the doll in her left hand and holding the car in her right hand, playing with it. The two little boys were squatting at the door of the backyard, looking over here. The eyes of the two little babies were shining. The boys' love for machinery, cars, and all kinds of cold weapons was regardless of age. The two little things looked at the gun in Su Qianxi's hand from a distance, their eyes full of desire. Rong Haiyue had already discovered the two little things. He took the gun from Su Qianxi's hand and said, "Although the air gun is not as lethal as a pistol, this thing can also cause great damage. In the past, many hunters liked to use this kind of gun to hunt some large animals, such as wild boars and bison. If it hit a person's vital point, it could also kill them." With that, Rong Haiyue looked in the direction of the two little guys and warned them with a serious face. "Especially children, don't touch this kind of thing. It's too dangerous." Su Qianxi then noticed that the two little guys were squatting there and peeking. With a smile on their lips, they glared at them. "Got it, Grandpa?" Li Jianxian stood up and asked. "But what is the vital point?" The vital parts are the most important parts of a person's body, which are also the most vulnerable parts, such as the neck, brain, and heart. If they are hit by an air gun, they will die. Rong Haiyue put the gun away and went forward to drive the two children away. "Don't do it here. Your mother's aim is too bad. If she misses and hurts the innocent, it will not be good." Li Jianxian laughed rudely. Su Qianxi blushed and stomped her feet. How can she be so good that she can shoot at a 90 degrees angle? Li Mosin heard it, but his heart was slightly shocked, and his little heart had a greedy feeling. Chapter 597. The cooperation between TL and LS, under TL's publicity, became well known. The fact that Li Jinnan personally signed the contract also caused a sensation in the industry. Tang Qing, followed by the bodyguard, handed over the signed contract document that had been prepared a long time ago. Li Jinnan took it and looked at it carefully. In his mind, L's line of text was always reminding him, there is a secret breach of contract loophole in the TL contract. Do not leak it when signing the contract. Secret breach of contract loophole? Li Jinnan's eyes deliberately stayed on the precautions for a long time. Tang Qing stared at his eyes closely, for fear of missing any expression of his. In the end, Li Jinnan's eyes only glanced at the breach of contract. A few lines of text turned in his mind, and Li Jinnan suddenly realized. It turned out to be like this. Sure enough, it was full of Li Xiqing's style, cunning and insidious. Li Jinnan was now basically sure that L was Li Xiqing, and the person who drafted this document must be Li Xiqing. Although his heart was in turmoil, Li Jinnan's face was still calm. In the entire document, only the breach of contract stayed the shortest. Li Jinnan took out his marker pen, quickly signed, stamped it with the seal of the Li Group, and exchanged it with Tang Qing. Tang Qing also handed over the signed document. After exchanging, the two companies officially announced that they had reached a cooperation. Li Jinnan and Tang Qing finally shook hands gently and nodded at each other. Just as the two were about to walk away, Li Jinnan's phone rang. Tang Qing's eyes were always on him. She saw Li Jinnan's face change slightly. In an instant, there was an indescribable joy on his face. He couldn't believe it and said, "You found Tang Minjing?" Tang Qing heard the words and suddenly retracted her hand. The bodyguard behind her was also shocked. He turned sideways vigilantly and walked in front of Tang Qing. However, Li Jinnan did not look at Tang Qing at all. He said with a sullen face, "Be sure to find her. Whether she is in Yunnan or in Myanmar, you must catch her." Yunnan, Myanmar? Tang Qing and the bodyguard exchanged a look, and the two suddenly felt relieved. It seemed that they had mistaken her for someone else. Li Jinnan gave a few more reminders before hanging up. Turning his head, he apologized to Tang Qing. "Sorry, I still have something to do. I have to go." "Yes, President Li, please." Li Jinnan took a step forward and quickly walked out. Tang Minjing sneered and walked out slowly with her cat-like steps. Back home, Tang Minjing immediately went to the basement. When Jing saw her coming, she took the initiative to open the door. Layer after layer, it was comparable to an iron wall. Moreover, in front of the only exit, there were 4 surveillance cameras installed. There were no blind spots at all, for bodyguards were guarding at the same time. Even if the person inside had 3 heads and 6 arms, it would be difficult for him to escape. In addition to Tang Minjing, the only one that could be mobilized here was the servant who had been with the Tang family for 5 or 6 years, Jing Sa. Tang Minjing was very satisfied with Jing Sa's understanding. She nodded and said very sympathetically, "Jing Sa, you haven't had a vacation for a long time, right? Is there a place you want to go?" Chapter 598. Tang Minjing laughed happily, nodded, and was very satisfied. "Sure enough, you have the same fun as me. I also like to train the dead dog inside. Unfortunately, I won't be able to train him for the next few days." Jing Sa was a little surprised and asked, "Miss, are you going on a business trip again?" "Yes, I have to go. I will go to Guangxi tomorrow morning for about 3 days. You have to keep an eye on him these days. Don't let him escape like last time." Jing Sa smiled coldly, and there was a fierce look on her face. She said, "That depends on him. If he doesn't come back, he can only be caught in the drug rehabilitation center. Let's see who will suffer." Tang Minjing simply loved Jing Sa's expression. She smiled proudly and walked in. Jing Sa followed her and said, "He just took the medicine, and now he is so comfortable that he fell asleep. He has been roaring and jumping just now. It's so annoying." Turning on the light, a figure lying inside seemed to sense this side. He turned his back impatiently, covered his face with a pillow, and continued to sleep. "Didn't I ask you to give him medicine on time?" Tang Minjing seemed to be a little unhappy, and her voice was a little low. Jing Sa heard this and looked a little embarrassed. She said, "Miss, didn't you just say that you will give me a holiday?" I don't want to take a holiday. These days, don't worry about how I torture him, okay? Tang Minjing smiled and asked, how do you want to play? Jingsaw saw that she was really interested, and her face was a little excited. She said, there are many ways to play. But soon, she restrained herself a little, coughed softly, and lowered her head. The smile on Tang Minjing's face was even more brilliant. She patted Jingsaw on the shoulder and said, keep him alive. It took me a lot of effort to pull him back from the gates of hell. Look at my face. Yes, I know what I'm doing. That's good. I'll leave it to you, Jingsaw. Tang Minjing said sincerely, but she did not stay long and quickly turned away. Jingsaw took a deep look at the man on the bed, quickly turned off the light, and relocked the door layer by layer, guarding the door. Li Xiqing got up from the bed, and a pair of cold and deep eyes shone with strong excitement. 3 days of business trip? In other words, these 3 days. Before 8 o'clock on Saturday morning, Li Jianyue excitedly ran to Su Qianxi's room. Su Qianxi was still sleeping. Li Jianyue took off the little sandals she had just put on and got into her mother's bed, shouting, Mom, 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 get up, get up. Today we are going to the amusement park, the amusement park. Mommy, Mommy, Mommy. Su Qianxi was sleeping soundly and was woken up by the little guy. However, she didn't move. Just when Li Jianyue climbed onto her body, she suddenly stood up and grabbed her little shoulders. She shouted, I caught it. Ah! Li Jianyue screamed, but at the same time, there was a melodious and lively laughter. Mommy monster, don't catch me. Help brother, save me. Su Qianxi held her in her arms and looked fierce. I want to eat you, and your brother will not come to save you. Oh, I was eaten. Li Jianyue tilted her head and fell softly, but she quickly raised her head again. She said seriously with a pink face, Mom, you are too childish. Now that I am done playing with you, you have to take us to the amusement park. This was a special task that her great-grandfather had given her. She must complete it. Chapter 599. Su Qianxi lay on the bed lazily and did not want to move. She said, let Mom sleep again. Mom is sleepy. Li Jianyue blinked and lay directly on top of her. She pressed her fluffy little head against her chest and said, then let's sleep for a while more. Su Qianxi smiled, touched Li Jianyue's little head, and closed her eyes again. But less than 2 minutes later, the little girl shouted, Mom, we're almost there. You can get up. Not yet. Just a little more. No, Mom doesn't keep her words. You can't do this. Li Jianyue reached out and grabbed her clothes, trying to pull her up, but Su Qianxi was lying motionless. The little girl's face was red. She sat on Su Qianxi's belly, puffed up her little face, and directly inserted 2 index fingers into Su Qianxi's nostrils. She said, get up, get up. Su Qianxi laughed. After grabbing her hand, she turned her over and slapped her little butt. You're asking for a beating. Ah, Mom is hitting me. Help brother, help me. Li Jianxian looked in from the outside, blinked and asked, Mom, are you done? Yes, I'm done. Su Qianxi yawned, pushed Li Jianyue, and took a wet tissue from the bedside to wipe her hands. Mom is going to brush my teeth and wash my face. Have you had breakfast? Yes. Li Jianyue looked proud. Just waiting for Mom. Mom is a big lazy bug. Su Qianxi pinched her nose, got out of bed, and walked into the bathroom. In the bathroom, on the sink, the things that Li Xiqing had used were still there. Because they had not been used for a long time, they looked a little pale. Su Qianxi glanced at them, took her cup, and said to the toiletries, Good morning, Mr. Li. After washing, she opened the door and found that the room had been a mess. Li Jianxian covered his head with the quilt and stood on the bed, looking down at Li Jianyue, who was kneeling below. Do you know your mistake? Li Jianyue looked like she was about to cry. She whimpered, I know I was wrong. Your Majesty, please forgive me. I won't dare to do it again. Li Mosen stood on the side, with his hands folded and his head slightly lowered. Su Qianxi could see at a glance that he was playing a little eunuch. Seeing Su Qianxi coming out, Li Jianxian immediately put the quilt down, sat on the bed and said, My sister forced me to do this. No, it was my brother who said he wanted to be the emperor. No, my brother said he wanted to be the emperor. Su Qianxi said. Su I Qianxi. The three little guys immediately ran away. Li Jianxian's shoes were still under the bed. Su Qianxi felt a little helpless and shouted, Deisu shoes! Li Jianxian immediately opened the door and ran in. He picked up his shoes and ran away. But when he ran to the door, he seemed to remember something and said, Wear the same clothes as us. Not Su Qianxi smiled. I Li and Su Li. Li Su, and in Li, to go. Xiao Li Su Su he Li tying her hair into a bun. She picked out a pair of white flats and walked out of the room. Chapter 600. Women like to be praised as young, and Su Qianxi was no exception. Smiling and drinking the porridge, she said, Thank you, Lu Sa. The old man was reading the newspaper with his presbyopic glasses. He was also very satisfied with Su Qianxi's outfit. He smiled and said, Go to the amusement park today. Take care of the children. You look like a child. Don't be cheated. Of course not. Su Qianxi ate breakfast, not caring. If I am so easily cheated, how can I manage the Li group? This was the truth. But now this truth could not be used by the old man. The old man looked at her and said, It's hard to say. You have 3 children. You didn't ask a man to go with you. Fortunately, I found you a helper. As soon as he said that, the doorbell rang. The old man closed the newspaper happily and said, Speak of the devil, and here he is. Su Qianxi had an ominous feeling in her heart. Swallowing the last mouthful of porridge, she looked at the door. Lu Sa went to open the door, and there stood a tall and thin figure. Lu Yihan did not wear glasses today. His peach blossom eyes looked bright and energetic, and his facial features were distinct. He was wearing a loose, simple black and white striped t-shirt and fashionable light blue jeans. He looked indescribably handsome. The 3 children saw Lu Yihan coming in, looked up and said in unison, Hello, Uncle Lu. Lu Yihan heard their shouts, walked over, and rubbed their little heads. Hello, are you ready? Yes. Li Jianrui was the most excited. You see, I am not wearing a dress today. I am wearing the same as Uncle. Li Jianrui was wearing a small camisole with a small black and white striped top. Not only Li Jianrui, but also Li Jianxian and Li Mosin were wearing the same clothes. Su Qianxi glanced at her own clothes and felt it was particularly dazzling. What she was wearing was similar to Lu Yihan's. She was the one who bought the parent-child outfit, and the 3 little guys were wearing the same clothes. With Lu Yihan's outfit, it was like a family of 5. Su Qianxi suddenly felt embarrassed and looked at Grandpa. The old man very cleverly covered his face with the newspaper and even clicked his tongue in wonder. Sigh, the morals of the world are getting worse by the day. There are actually people who rob and kill on the streets. It's too scary. Little Lu, I'll leave Qianqian and the children to you today. You must protect them well. Okay. Lu Yihan squatted down and picked Li Jianrui up. I will complete the task with honor. Su Qianxi felt uncomfortable. She should have thought of it. The amusement park turned out to be Captain Li's idea. Holding her forehead, she did not know how to face Lu Yihan. She said, I suddenly remembered that I have something else to do today. Should we go another day? Is Mom still busy? Li Jianrui widened her eyes and pouted. But I really want to go to the amusement park. Mom, can you take me there? Qianqian, we've been waiting for you for so long. How long has it been since you went out with the kids? You just work all day and spend more time with the child. Captain Li covered his face with the newspaper, not daring to look at Su Qianxi. Grandpa. Su Qianxi was a little angry. Although she knew that Grandpa was doing it for her own good, she couldn't help but feel a little disgusted. She knew how Lu Yihan treated her. Chapter 601. Grandpa had set a trap for her and was waiting for her to fall into it. Didn't he know that she would feel awkward and guilty? Captain Li pretended not to hear and said to Li Jianxian, You must not run around. You must listen to Mom and take good care of your sister. Do you understand? Li Jianxian nodded and nodded again. I know, Great-Grandpa. I will take good care of my sister. Me too. Li Mosin did not want to fall behind, and Li Jianrui was in Lu Yihan's arms. She directly put her arms around Lu Yihan's neck, looked at Su Qianxi and said, Mom, are you still not full? He looked at her and smiled. Let's go. She did not want to go. did not want to go, did not want to go. However, when he saw Li Jianyue's expectant expression, he couldn't bear to disappoint her. Li Jianxian trotted to the dining room, pulled Su Qianxi's hand and said, "Mom, let's go." Su Qianxi was pulled up by Li Jianxian and walked out. Shuangyu followed them silently, holding Li Mosen's hand. Soon, they got on the RV together. Today was the weekend, so Yang's driver didn't have to work. Lu Yihan consciously sat in the driver's seat, and Su Qianxi and Shuangyu went to the back with the three little guys. The three little guys sat on the sofa, one on the left and one on the right, with an iPad in the middle. Li Jianyue squatted in the middle and stared at them playing games. Su Qianxi leaned back on the sofa, feeling a bit distressed. The swan necklace on her neck was shining brightly. She reached out and grasped it. She couldn't help but think of what he looked like that day. His heart ached. However, there was nothing she could do. Looking at the roof of the car for a long while, she picked up her phone and called Li Jinan. Li Jinan was working overtime at the moment. Seeing that it was Su Qianxi, he immediately answered. "Uncle?" "Yes. How did you handle that matter?" Li Jinan was silent for a moment and said, "I'm planning and preparing. You can live as before. Leave the rest to me, sister-in-law." "Do you have any new information?" "Yes." Su Qianxi's eyes lit up, and she immediately sat up straight. "What news?" "Leave it to me, second sister-in-law. Aren't you taking the children to the amusement park today? Have fun." "Brother-in-law." She still wanted to say something, but he had already hung up. She felt a little discouraged. Thinking that she would have to take care of the three children with Lu Yihan, she felt even more anxious. Looking at the children, Li Jianxian was particularly good at the game, and from time to time, Li Mosen let out a cry of surprise. Li Jianyue didn't know what Li Mosen was exclaiming about, but when she saw the look of awe on his face, she cooperated and opened her eyes wide. Although Li Jianxian despised Li Jianyue, the feeling of being worshipped like this was very good. Soon, they arrived at the gate of the amusement park. Lu Yihan parked the car and took the children out. Today was the weekend, so the amusement park was crowded with people. Li Jianyue held Su Qianxi's hand and looked at the people and children inside. "Wow, there are so many people. Let's go. Uncle will show you around." Lu Yihan picked Li Jianyue up and walked inside. Li Jianxian and Li Mosen also seemed a little excited, chasing each other as they ran inside. Shuangyu followed closely, for fear of losing him. Su Qianxi fell behind, a little distressed. What the six people did not notice was that there was always a white sports car following behind their car. Just after they stopped, a simple and tall figure also parked the car and followed silently. He was still wearing a dark gray short-sleeved t-shirt, which outlined all the lines of his body, a pair of simple washed jeans, and a pair of simple and refreshing canvas shoes. He wore a big cap on his head and big sunglasses on his face. His flaxen hair covered his ears, revealing only a sapphire cross earring. He came and did not disturb anyone. However, after seeing the clothes they were wearing, his eyes under the sunglasses were colder and deeper. Chapter 602. Was this a parent-child outfit? Li Xiqing put his hands in his trouser pockets and slowly followed. Li Jianyue was held by Lu Yihan. On her pink little face, her little mouth opened into a big smile, and her round dark eyes looked around. A clown uncle was buying cotton candy, surrounded by many children and parents. Li Jianyue saw the colorful cotton candy and the balloons floating in the wind. Her eyes lit up, and she shouted in a sweet voice, I want Uncle Lu. I want cotton candy and balloons." Li Jianxian and Li Mosen asked Shuangyu to buy a stick of candied hawthorn for each of them, and walked inside while eating. Lu Yihan lined up to buy cotton candy and balloons for the little girl. Li Jianyue held the balloons in one hand, and the cotton candy in the other, licking her face and giggling. From time to time, Su Qianxi took out a wet tissue to wipe her face. Lu Yihan smiled and looked at Su Qianxi's gentle movements, and his eyes flashed with satisfaction. Su Qianxi did not notice Lu Yihan's flashing eyes and said, "It's all over your body. Look at yourself, is it sticky?" Li Jianyue handed the stick to Su Qianxi and shook her head. "It's not sticky. I want to eat more." "Don't eat more. If you eat too much, You will have tooth decay. Su Qianxi said righteously, took the stick and threw it into the trash can. When the two little guys entered the amusement park, Li Jianxian and Li Mosin were even more excited than Li Jianyue. They pulled each other and finally urged Lu Yihan to play shooting games. Su Qianxi and Li Jianyue watched them shoot. The little girl pulled Su Qianxi's hand and whispered, "Mom, I want to pee." Su Qianxi picked her up, and after saying goodbye to Lu Yihan, she took the little girl to find the toilet. Li Jianyue still did not know how to wear the suspenders. After peeing, she turned it left and right, and finally it was a mess. When she opened the door of the bathroom and walked out, Su Qianxi was dumbfounded. The one on the left hooked onto the one on the right. It didn't even reach the shoulder. As for the one on the right, it went through the waist and hooked onto the left side. Her pants were about to fall off. After letting the little girl wash her hands, Su Qianxi helped her button up her clothes. Li Jianyue smiled and asked for a hug. They left the bathroom together. Not far from the restroom, there was a small plane that children and adults were playing in. It didn't look very tall, about 3 meters tall. From time to time, the excited laughter of children could be heard. Li Jianyue's eyes lit up when she heard it. "Mom, Ursa wants to play that." Li Jianyue's voice was sweet, and she pointed at the small plane above. "It's so fun. Let's play together." "All right, let's go." Su Qianxi put Li Jianyue down and held her hand to line up. The line wasn't long, so it was their turn soon. Su Qianxi fastened Li Jianyue's seatbelt and buckled her own. She whispered, "Don't be afraid. It will be very high later." "I'm not afraid." Li Jianyue's face was a little excited. She was a little nervous as she looked down. The small plane moved, and Li Jianyue felt that she was about to fly. She screamed, "Mom, I'm going to fly." "Ah." Her voice was sharp and childish, with a strong excitement, and she laughed loudly. Su Qianxi saw that she was so happy, and reached out to hold her. However, suddenly there was a muffled sound below. Without warning, her body became light. Su Qianxi felt that her whole body was about to be thrown out, and her heart skipped a beat. Chapter 603. Li Xiqing bought a cotton candy and held it in his hand. Looking at the big pink cotton candy, he seemed to hear a sweet voice in his mind. "I want more." He was clearly very far away, but his hearing was so good that he could hear the little girl's voice. "Daughter wants to eat cotton candy. Daddy will buy it for you. Whatever you want, Daddy will give it to you." Li Xiqing's eyes under the sunglasses dimmed slightly. Soon, give him 2 more months. At most 2 months, he would go home to be with his wife, son and daughter. Cotton candy was the most vulnerable in the air. When the wind blew, the fluffy and beautiful cotton candy suddenly flattened and looked sticky. Li Xiqing looked at the cotton candy in his hand and couldn't help but laugh. He actually bought such a thing. Who is it for? Walking to the trash can, he threw the cotton candy in. Suddenly, there were exclamations around. Li Xiqing heard the movement and turned his head to look at the place where everyone was looking. His pupils suddenly contracted, and his heart almost jumped out of his chest at the same time. Wasn't that the thing they just went to play? Su Qianxi was so scared that her face was pale. She wrapped her hands around Li Jianyue and firmly put her head on her head. Li Jianyue's eyes were wide open, and she had no idea what was going on. Looking at Su Qianxi, she asked, "Mom, what's wrong with you?" The staff of the amusement park were shocked and immediately pressed the emergency stop button. Thump! The amusement park immediately stopped. Unfortunately, the small plane that was loose was at the highest point of the amusement park, 3 meters away from the ground. There should be 2 fixed spots under each small plane, but the small plane at the top had obviously fallen off one spot. The entire small plane was hanging askew, on the verge of collapse, and was still swaying gently. The entire small plane was suspended high up in the sky, and 3/4 of the seat was exposed in mid-air. There was only a very thin connection, and it was barely supporting them from falling. However, the sound of being overwhelmed came from below. The creaking was like a deadly music. Every time it sounded, it was frightening. Almost everyone around looked over, and many people began to take photos with their phones. Cries of surprise rang out continuously, and more people gathered around to watch. Su Qianxi was pale as paper, holding her daughter and looking down. Her heart was about to jump out. Even her breathing became rapid, but she did not dare to move. She shouted, "Help!" It was August, and the temperature outside was as high as 30 degrees Celsius. The blazing sun cast down, making her sweat even more. In a short moment, Su Qianxi was soaked, holding the baby and not daring to move. "Call the police! Call the police! Oh my God, this kind of thing actually happened. Quick, save them! It's so high, if I were to fall." Su Qianxi couldn't help shaking. Holding the baby, she sobbed and shouted helplessly, "Help! Save us!" However, the voices below were getting louder and louder, and more people were coming. Someone had already called the police, and someone had already gone to find help, but no one had come to save them yet. Chapter 604. The crying of the child made the people around even more excited. When the other children in the other seats heard that Li Jianyue was crying, they also panicked and started crying. "Ursu, don't be afraid, don't move, don't cry." Su Qianxi held the child and whispered to comfort her. "It will go down soon, don't be afraid." Li Jianyue cried even louder, her little hand hooking up and holding her mother's hand. It was just that it was this movement that the small plane, which was already on the verge of collapse, shook slightly at that moment. Su Qianxi was even more scared and trembled, but she bit her lower lip and comforted her daughter. "Don't move, Ursu, let's play a game." Li Jianyue stopped crying and looked at Su Qianxi with her wet eyes. Su Qianxi's smile was a bit reluctant, and her voice trembled slightly. She whispered, "1, 2, 3, wooden man, don't talk, don't move." Li Jianyue really did not make a sound, closed her eyes, and did not dare to move. This was the method that Li Mosin taught her. When playing with wooden men, close your eyes, and you won't lose. Su Qianxi also did not dare to move. She closed her eyes and tears of fear suddenly fell. What to do? What to do? Were they going to die here today? Suddenly, there was another exclamation from the crowd, and there was a lot of noise below. Everyone saw that after a dark gray figure squeezed through the crowd, he did not hesitate to climb over the railing. He was very agile and stepped on a small plane, climbing along the branches that connected the small planes. The sound of a human body climbing over the hollow metal came. Su Qianxi opened her eyes and looked down. However, with her current vision, she could see the front side, and the movement came from behind her. She did not dare to turn her head, and did not dare to move. Su Qianxi held the child and suddenly heard a cry from below. "It's dangerous, you can't go up." "Are you crazy? You actually want to climb up? Who is this person? A staff member? This is too bold." The noise was getting louder and louder. Louis Han was playing with the two little boys, and Shuangyu was watching from behind. She turned her head and looked at the noisy place. It was just that there were too many people and large construction equipment, so it was impossible to see clearly. "What happened over there?" Li Jianxian looked over there, turned to look at Li Mosin and said, "Shall we go take a look too?" Li Mosin nodded and looked at Louis Han. Louis Han was also curious, and pushed them from behind. "Let's go and have a look." The group of people walked over there. From afar, Louis Han saw the small plane that was about to crash. Seeing this, Louis Han was shocked and shouted, "This is too dangerous." But when he saw the person on the small plane, his expression immediately changed. "Qianqian?" Shuangyu also looked up and saw that the people on it were Su Qianxi and Li Jianyue. Her face changed dramatically, and she immediately rushed up, squeezed through the crowd, and immediately jumped over the railing. Shuangyu stood below at a loss and found that someone had already taken the lead. That figure, wasn't that the man Su Qianxi chased at the convention center last time? Now why did he appear here? Chapter 605. Li Xiqing gasped, carefully grasped the tree trunk and whispered, "Unfasten the child's seatbelt, help her up, and leave it to me." Su Qianxi heard this voice and was slightly dazed. She looked at him incredulously, as if she wanted to look into his eyes through the pair of sunglasses. It's him! It's him! This voice, deeply familiar, followed her for 2 lifetimes. Over the years, it constantly echoed in her memories and dreams, so clear and so familiar. It's really him! It's really him! Su Qianxi forgot to breathe for a moment, did not dare to move, and did not dare to touch. What if, when she reached out, he was gone again? Quick! There's no time! Li Xiqing growled, and in his voice, there was calmness and fear. Don't move, calm down. Hearing this voice again, Su Qianxi's mind was blank, and there was only one thought left. It's him, it's really him. He's here to save them. However, Su Qianxi quickly reacted and carefully unfastened the child's seatbelt. Mom, you lost. Li Jianyue opened her eyes and said in a sweet and childish voice. Her face was streaked with dried tears and she was grinning. This little girl still did not know her situation. Li Xiqing's heart was slightly sour, and there was a surge of soreness in his eyes. This was the first time he was so close to his daughter. So close. After 4 years, he could finally look at his daughter face to face. She was really beautiful, just like her mother, very beautiful. Li Xiqing tried to calm himself down and reached out to her. But it was also because of this movement of Su Qianxi's. The sound of the overwhelmed people below rang out. There were a lot of exclamations, and the screams continued. For the first time, Su Qianxi felt that she was so close to death. It was truly soul-stirring. It was even more frightening than her previous death. Her heart almost jumped to her throat. But inexplicably, although Su Qianxi's body was numb and even slightly trembling, her movements were very stable. This was also the first time that Su Qianxi felt that she could be so calm. She coaxed, "Ursu, don't move, follow Dad down." Dad! It was just 2 words, but they were like a mallet that fiercely smashed into his heart. It was so ruthless, so heavy, and it gave him an unlimited impact and feeling. Throbbing like crazy, Li Xiqing felt that he could not stand it anymore. Even his hands were trembling with excitement. He whispered, "Don't disturb me. Hurry up." Li Jianyue was lifted by the collar. When she heard the unfamiliar word daddy, she blinked her eyes and asked, "Where is Daddy?" "Here, Daddy is here." Li Xiqing pursed his lips and reached out to pull Li Jianyue over. He shouted, "Someone come and help." Shuangyu jumped down and waved at Li Xiqing. Li Xiqing carefully moved down, holding the little guy in his arms and slowly moving down. Shuangyu immediately ran down there, raised her hands and waved at him. Li Xiqing put the little guy down and said, "Follow Auntie Shuangyu. I will let go. You jump down 1, 2, jump." Li Jianyue was quite cooperative. She jumped into Shuangyu's arms and laughed loudly. Making sure her daughter was safe, she finally let out a sigh of relief. He carefully moved toward her. Dash! Chapter 606. Li Xiqing felt himself trembling. He was scared. For the first time in his life he was so scared. In the past few years, his life had been on the line countless times. But he had never been really afraid of anything. But now Li Xiqing was so scared that he was trembling. Calming himself down, he moved up and ordered, "Unbuckle your seatbelt and give me your hand." Su Qianxi heard this familiar voice and cried happily. Her tears kept flowing, but her smile was infinitely wider. He was here. It was him. It was really him. For 4 years, how many times had she fantasized about meeting him? For 4 years, how many times had she looked forward to his return? But even if she had 10 hearts and 10 brains, she could not imagine that they would meet again in this way. Her Mr. Li Xiqing was back. Unbuckling her seatbelt, Su Qianxi reached out and touched his palm. Her heart, which had been hanging for 4 years, suddenly calmed down. Because of the fear of death and falling, her body trembled slightly, but because of his palm, she suddenly calmed down. So what? As long as he came, she could live. As long as he came, she would not die. It was like this every time, wasn't it? Su Qianxi held his hand firmly and tried to stand up. She did not dare to move too much, carefully. But at this critical moment, There was nothing under her feet, and the feeling of weightlessness hit her unexpectedly. Su Qianxi's pupils shrank, and a lot of screams pierced her eardrums. Louis Han stood in the crowd and looked at the two children. At this moment, seeing this scene, his face suddenly turned pale and he shouted, "Qianqian!" Ah! In the crowd there was a lot of chaos. Screams and cries were all mixed together, turning into a noise that was difficult to cover up. Bang! A model airplane seat fell to the ground, smashing a hole in the cement floor. Dust flew and people exclaimed. Under the blazing sun, the man on the branch was holding a woman's hand tightly. He clenched his teeth, and his face was cold and stiff. His legs were climbing on the branch, and he was as steady as Mount Tai. Shuang Yu put Li Jianyue down, and caught Su Qianxi with a pale face. Su Qianxi was soaked. Looking at the man on the top, she narrowed her eyes, gasped, and smiled. Li Xiqing also let out a sigh of relief. The sweat on his forehead had seeped through his clothes and dripped down. Seeing that she was safe and sound, Li Xiqing turned over and went back the way he came. She felt a bit weak in the knees, but she quickly got up and walked toward him. The ride started up again, and the parents and children, who had been scared out of their wits, came down again with pale faces. As soon as Li Xiqing landed, he pressed on his hat and glasses. Walking quickly, he blended into the crowd and disappeared in a flash. Su Qianxi was shocked and immediately ran after him. But when she squeezed into the crowd and tried to find him again, she could no longer see him. He actually ran away. How could this be? How could this be? She couldn't get through the crowd and yelled, "Li Xiqing!" Hearing her cry, he walked faster, lowered his hat, and ran out of the crowd. Su Qianxi squeezed out, and when she came back to herself, Li Xiqing had already disappeared without a trace. His heart instantly panicked. Chapter 607. People were coming and going, the laughter of children, the whispers of pedestrians, the warning of safety announcements, and the discussion of the crisis. All kinds of sounds mixed together, but Su Qianxi felt her ears were cool, and her mind was blank. All that was left was a silhouette of his back. Tall and straight, much thinner than before. Wearing a hat and sunglasses, he slightly lowered his head and strode forward without hesitation. He didn't even turn his head or look at her once. He just disappeared into the crowd. Just like the big explosion that year, he disappeared without a trace. Su Qianxi stood at the intersection, looking thin and embarrassed, like a child who had lost her parents. There were no amusement facilities here. In front of her was the edge of the amusement park. Climbing over the high rockery was the outside of the amusement park. It was a dead end. "Li Xiqing, Li Xiqing!" Su Qianxi shouted, her voice trembling. Her crying made her voice sound a bit hoarse. She looked around for a week, going around in circles. But there was nothing. Many people looked over, but he was not there. There was not even a shadow. He didn't even want to look at her. Su Qianxi felt a dull pain in her heart, and she felt that she was about to suffocate. Every time, it was the pain he gave her, so hard, so hard. "I know it's you. Where are you?" No one responded. Quite a few people glanced at her and hurriedly walked away. Just then, sweet music sounded, and the unique voice of Yang Zuoma came into her ears. "Remember, you promised me that you would not let me find you? But you flew so far with the migratory bird returning south. Love is like a kite with a broken string. Can't hold the promise you made. Last time I suddenly couldn't find you. I was scared. I thought something happened to you. There won't be a next time. If I disappear without telling you anything like that day, you can punish me when I come back. I won't resist." What he said seemed to be still ringing in her ears, so clear. At that time, he held her in his hands, hugged her, kissed her gently, and said softly, "You can punish me however you want." The sun was very bright. Under the blazing sun, Su Qianxi was at a loss, squatting down and crying helplessly. "Why do you have to leave? Honey, I miss you so much. Can you come back?" Li Xiqing's back was pressed against the rockery. The temperature was very high, but Li Xiqing did not move. Hearing her cries behind him, Li Xiqing's heart spasmed violently, affecting his tear ducts. The dam that he had been guarding for more than 20 years was mercilessly broken. "I'm here. I'm here." With the back of his head against the rockery, Li Xiqing felt his throat hurt. Listening to her crying, he felt even more guilty. He wanted to pick her up and protect her in his arms, just like before, so that she wouldn't cry, so that she wouldn't suffer. He also wanted to help her dress every day, help her bathe, remind her to wear shoes, and warn her to keep warm, just like before, just like 4 years ago. But now was not the time. He couldn't go back yet. He couldn't expose himself yet. Give him another 2 months, 2 months at most. Chapter 608. Qianqian. Louis Han's voice suddenly broke into Li Xiqing's ears. His originally half-closed eyes suddenly opened, and he turned his head to look in that direction. Louis Han took the 2 children, and Shuangyu was holding his daughter, walking toward his woman. The dazzling parent-child outfit was even more obvious in his eyes. He wanted to kill him. That was his. All of it was Li Xiqing's. What right did Louis Han have to wear that outfit and accompany his woman? Li Xiqing almost couldn't help rushing up and punching him. Suddenly he heard the voice of Jing Sa. "Where did you go? You were photographed, do you know that?" Hearing this, Li Xiqing calmed down a lot, pressed the sapphire earring on his ear, and whispered, "How did you know it was me?" "Earring." Jing Sa's angry voice came. "And your wig, your sunglasses are all bought by me. Do you think I'm blind? That woman can't recognize me." "I hope so. Finish your business and come back soon." "Okay." Li Xiqing responded and looked back in their direction. No one noticed the existence of Li Xiqing. Louis Han walked to Su Qianxi, squatted down, and whispered, "What's wrong?" "He doesn't want me, Han. He really doesn't want me and the children." Su Qianxi's voice was very choked. "It was him just now, he saved us." Louis Han was dazed. He knew best who Su Qianxi was talking about. However, how was it possible? Li Xiqing had died long ago. He had been dead for 4 years, forever left in the abandoned factory in the eastern suburbs, never to return. How could it be him? Louis Han looked at Su Qianxi. but his expression was indescribably calm. He held her shoulder and said, "The children are hungry. Let's go back first, okay?" Su Qianxi shook her head and looked up at Lu Yihan, a pair of wet eyes pleading. "Yihan, help me find him, okay? He is here. I am very sure he is here. Can you help me find him?" Then, there were tears in her eyes, and she cried sadly, "I can't find him. He is hiding." Lu Yihan pursed his lips, helped her stand up, and said, "Let's go back first." "Yihan. Enough Qianqian." Lu Yihan's voice was a bit fierce, and his pair of peach blossom eyes looked at her with a bit of sharpness. "He is dead. He died a long time ago. You are hallucinating again. That is not him. It is just a kind passerby." "No, it is really him. Even if his voice turned to ashes, I would still be able to recognize it. It's him, it's him. He is not dead." She was a bit hysterical and pushed him away. "It is not an illusion. I am very awake now, Lu Yihan." Su Qianxi scared Li Jianyue, holding Shuangyu's neck and crying. The crying of the child made Su Qianxi's tear ducts even more. Chapter 609. Each question went straight to Li Xiqing's heart. "Don't cry. Don't cry." Li Xiqing looked there, narrowed his eyes slightly, reached out, and pretended to touch her face, wiping her tears. In his memory, that soft touch felt like it was right beside his hand. Every inch of it made him unable to let go, unwilling to let go of it in the slightest. "Sorry." Li Xiqing finally glanced at her, then climbed the rockery, crossed the high wall of the amusement park and jumped down. He still had business to do. Mom." Li Jianyue reached out her little hand and wiped Su Qianxi's tears. Her big eyes were wet, and there were tears on her pink face. "Mom, who are you talking to?" "Your father. The person who just took you down is your father." "No," Li Jianxian suddenly said. "Mom, you are hallucinating. That is not my father." Su Qianxi turned her head, looked at Desu incredulously, and said with absolute certainty, "It is your father. Then it is your father." "No, Dad is dead. Everyone knows that Mom has paranoia. What you just saw was an illusion." Li Jianxian looked at Su Qianxi firmly. "Let's go home, Mom. Even you don't believe me." Looking at Lu Yihan and Shuangyu's eyes, Su Qianxi suddenly felt very ridiculous, but she could not laugh. Holding Li Jianyue, Su Qianxi's tears were even more turbulent. She walked to a shady place and stood still. "He is nearby. There is no way out. I don't believe he can run. I will wait for him here." Lu Yihan looked at her, and his heart felt like it was crawled by a group of devils, itchy and crazy. He wanted to wake her up and tell her that Li Xiqing was dead. In such a big explosion, it was impossible for anyone to survive. Who could survive such a big fire? Su Qianxi had been looking everywhere for 4 years. Although there was no news, she still did not give up. In the past few years, he had taken her to see a lot of psychologists and experienced a lot of things. But she always believed that Li Xiqing was still alive. He was not dead. How was it possible? Everyone knew how Li Xiqing treated Su Qianxi. If he was still alive, why didn't he come back? Lu Yihan felt like he was going crazy, but he still took a deep breath, stood with the 2 children, and said, "Let's wait for a while. If he doesn't show up in 15 minutes, we'll go back, okay?" She bit her lip and did not speak. The sun was getting bigger and bigger, and the sunlight was already slanting over, shining at their feet. 20 minutes later, the legendary Li Xiqing still did not show up. "Mom, I'm hungry," Li Jianxian said, looking up at her with a pair of dark eyes that were as clear and clean as Li Xiqing's. Li Jianyue pouted and said, "Mom, I'm hungry too." Li Mosen's stomach growled, but he didn't say anything. Lu Yihan stood next to Su Qianxi and reached out to Li Jianyue. "Uncle, carry me." Li Jianyue crawled towards Lu Yihan, pouted and asked, "Shall we go for pizza? I haven't had pizza in a while." "Ask Mom," Lu Yihan said. Chapter 610. Su Qianxi walked behind them, looking back every few steps. However, that figure still did not appear. After eating with the children, Su Qianxi went straight home to take a shower, change clothes, and fell into bed. Su Qianxi kept receiving notifications on her Weibo. She opened it and saw many private messages from netizens, as well as countless ads. One by one, without exception, they were all about what happened at the amusement park today. The angles of the pictures were very clever, each showing their expressions, and the image of Li Xiqing. However, without exception, so many photos, Li Xiqing did not look like the old Li Xiqing at all. He disguised himself so well that even she did not recognize him the first 2 times. There was also a blogger whose title was particularly eye-catching. The wife of the former president of LS, the current president Su Qianxi, cried out her late husband's name at the amusement park. In less than 3 hours, the replies had exceeded 30,000, and the number of likes was almost 100,000. Su Qianxi saw the picture. She was squatting on the ground, crying awkwardly and miserably. She couldn't help chuckling, but her eyes couldn't help being wet. It turned out that she was so miserable at that time. In that situation, Li Xiqing actually did not come out. Did he really not want them anymore? Why, for 4 years there was no news from him. Now that he finally appeared, he escaped so quickly? Was it because he took drugs, so he did not dare to face them? Yes, he took drugs, and Tang Minjing had been imprisoning and abusing him over the years. How did he escape? Su Qianxi was enlightened. Yes, he was such a proud man. How could he come back to her in such an image? What did he want to do? There must be a reason for him to hide, right? Su Qianxi suddenly got up and stared ahead. The golden afternoon sun penetrated through the white and clean window screens, turning into mottled golden spots that hit the ground. It was quiet, but it rippled along with the gentle breeze. Su Qianxi's heart was beating like crazy, and at the same time, she was also in pain. He was hiding. Did he want to quit drugs on his own? It was possible, very possible. No. Would a drug addict have that much strength? How could he be so agile? Su Qianxi had learned fighting from Li Jinnan for more than 3 years. Although she had only learned 1/10 of Li Jinnan's skills, it was more than enough to deal with ordinary gangsters. However, not only was she unable to gain any advantage from Li Xiqing, she was even subdued several times. After 2 moves, she could be sure that Li Xiqing's fighting ability was definitely no less than that of Li Jinnan. With such skills and strength, could such a person be a drug addict? However, she could hear everything clearly through the bug. Li Xiqing's howling, his pain, and his desperation. The punches that landed on the flesh wound over and over again. And Tang Minjing's creepy and sick laughter. How real was that? What's going on? What's going on? Su Qianxi's head was a mess, and her ears were ringing. With tears in her eyes, she took out her phone and found a photo of herself with the 2 children. After putting cute animal icons on the faces of the 2 children, she attached the photo and posted on Weibo. Chapter 611. In the busiest commercial street of Kingstown, Li Xiqing entered a well-decorated chain noodle restaurant and ordered a bowl of noodles for himself. When he was halfway through eating, a girl at the table behind him suddenly exclaimed and said, "Su Qianxi posted on Weibo." Li Xiqing paused eating and holding his chopsticks. "Oh, it's so sad." One of the girl's voice was full of sympathy. Her husband has been dead for so many years, and she still thinks he is still alive. I heard that she is neurotic. She misses her husband all the time. It's a mild delusional syndrome. I heard that she often has hallucinations that her husband will appear next to her. Oh, but she still manages such a big company very well. Damn, even a psychopath can do this. Why are we still so low? The girl sneered as she ate. Then you'll need to have such a big company to take over. I heard that it's not just Su Qianxi who did it. Her husband's younger brother, Su Qianxi's uncle, is also the vice president. So what if she has a company? She is still a widow. A young and beautiful woman with 2 children to manage a company. If it were me, I would remarry. What's wrong with doing in my prime? Why should she be a widow for a dead man? You're not her. How would you know what she's thinking? Maybe she's really in love with that ghostly Li Xiqing. You used to regard him as a Prince Charming. Now he has only been dead for a short time, and you have forgotten his name. How cold the world is. Li Xiqing listened to their words, silently finished the noodles, and got up to leave. He found an internet cafe in a remote alley. The owner with a cigarette in his mouth asked, "How long do you want to play? Can I play without an ID?" The boss looked him up and down, took off the cigarette and said, "Sure. $5 an hour for others, $20 an hour for you. The innermost machine has a separate compartment. That is a VIP room, and no one will go in there." Li Xiqing directly took out a $100 bill, turned around and walked in. The owner took the bill and checked it. After making sure it was real, he opened the machine for him. The legendary VIP room was just a small, dark compartment with a computer inside. It was the most classic XP system. A little kid was sitting on the ground with his butt bare. When he saw him come in, he raised his head to take a look. The boss walked in, carried the little kid out and said, "My son, you can play, but I won't refund the money." Li Xiqing ignored him and sat down. He opened the webpage and found Su Qianxi's Weibo. Seeing that sentence, Li Xiqing felt like crying. Her face in the photo was more mature than before, and she was much thinner than before. His Mrs. Li seemed to be different. Logging into a Weibo account, Li Xiqing left a message. He will see it, and he will come back. However, that message was quickly drowned out by a large number of replies. He logged into Elle's account on social media, and immediately saw a beauty's profile picture pop up. It was a selfie of Su Qianxi herself. She said, "Let's meet. I know you are in Kingstown, Mr. L. It was sent 10 minutes ago." Chapter 612. L. Li. In Li Xiqing, she had seen a lot of things that could not be explained by common sense. So over the years, was it possible that he had actually turned into L, silently watching her? She knew that her idea was a bit absurd. He had been imprisoned for so long. How could he get a communication device and contact her? But it was also such an absurd idea that was getting bigger and bigger in her heart. In the end, it was out of control. Who was L? Li Xiqing, Li Xiqing, Li Xiqing. A voice kept echoing in her mind. Her heart was pounding. After logging in the chat account, she sent a message. "Let's meet up. I know you are in Kingstown. Let's meet up. I know you are in Kingstown, Mr. Li." Li Xiqing looked at the line of words on the computer. For the second time in his life, he was caught in such a difficult struggle. The first time was 3 years ago, when Jing Sa invited him to help her deal with the drug trafficking gang. He could go home and reunite with his wife and children. In the future, he would always bear the fear that his family was likely to be retaliated against. Or he could help her collect evidence of their drug trafficking and dig out their boss, wiping them out in one fell swoop. At that time he struggled for 3 days and 3 nights. At that time, he had not fully recovered from his serious injury. If he chose to go home, Jing Sa would also help him. However, Li Xiqing finally chose the second step. Now, he could tell her, let her rest assured, and continue to be a spy. However, one more person knew one more danger. Jing Sa had repeatedly warned him not to go home, and not to see her. Or, he could not tell her. Let the outside world think that she was delusional. Let her continue to live with this attitude and face the world. In this way, Tang Minjing would let down her guard, and focus on dealing with him instead of his family. The people above Tang Minjing would also let down their guard. In the near future, he would be able to uproot them all. What to do? Li Xiqing was caught in a dilemma, holding his head in distress and closing his eyes. After sending this message, Su Qianxi felt inexplicably nervous and throbbing. Was it him? It must be him. It must be him, right? It was impossible for there to be 2 people in the world who were so similar. And it was impossible for them to have such similar gazes, wasn't it? Therefore, L must be Li Xiqing, no doubt about it. Su Qianxi stared at the letter on the computer. As time passed, about 10 minutes later, the other side actually replied. His reply was within his expectations, but it was also unexpected. Surprised, she stared at the computer screen with her eyes wide open. L. Tomorrow night, Kingstown Shijiang Bridge, 8 o'clock. Seeing these words, Su Qianxi's heart beat faster. Staring at the screen for a long while, her fingers quickly typed, "See you there. L. Be there or be square," writes him right. Has he finally decided to come clean with me? See you tomorrow. Staring at these words, Su Qianxi smiled, her eyes blurred with tears. Bad guy, I've been waiting for you for 4 years, you know? Mr. Li, do you know that I have waited for you for 4 years? She got off the bed, opened the closet, and started to pick out clothes for the first time. Chapter 6:13. On Sunday, Li Jinnan was still working overtime. After Su Qianxi arrived at the company, she worked with him for a while and told him about and meeting Li Xiqing yesterday. She couldn't hide the joy in her eyes. Li Jinnan smiled and only said, "Are you sure it was him?" Feeling that it would not be so simple, Li Jinnan looked at the document in his hand, but his thoughts were far away. Su Qianxi was silent for a moment and nodded. "I'm sure." Li Jinnan glanced at her and quickly returned to the contract signed by TL and LS in front of him. There was indeed a loophole in the breach of contract clause. This loophole was enough for TL to lose a lot of money, or even go bankrupt. This method was insidious and cruel. Li Jinnan would not believe anyone who told him that it was not Li Xiqing who did it. It was time to launch an attack on TL. Li Jinnan knew that that person was also waiting. Su Qianxi was not in the mood to work and quickly left the company. When she returned home, it was already restaurant time. After eating with the child, Su Qianxi went into the room. After trying on several sets of clothes, she finally chose a wide-sleeved floral dress. Li Xiqing liked to see her wearing floral dresses. This was the limited edition dress she bought from a brand a few days ago. Even Su Qianxi felt that she had become very beautiful in it. She put on water makeup and carefully painted her face to make herself look more beautiful. After everything was done, it was already 1913. Su Qianxi hurriedly put on her shoes and drove the modified supercar that Li Xiqing purchased. The closer she got to the destination, the more nervous she became. She was going to see him. She was going to see him. It must be him. Su Qianxi couldn't help smiling, feeling that she had finally become a Buddha after many years of cultivation. Kingstown Shijiang Bridge was located in the middle of the Kingstown River. Across the river, there was a high arch in the center, surrounded by bright colorful lights, changing into luxurious gold from time to time. The high bridge frame was known as the most beautiful landmark of Kingstown. The Bugatti stopped by the bridge. Su Qianxi looked up at the high bridge, her dark and bright eyes reflecting the beautiful scenery. So beautiful. Today the bridge was beautiful, the river was beautiful, the wind was beautiful, and even the starless and moonless sky made her feel happy. He looked at his watch. It was only 7:38 p.m. She seemed to have come too early. A dark gray figure, wearing big sunglasses and a big hat, avoided all the surveillance cameras and sneaked out of TL Group. No one noticed what kind of damage he had caused to the company, and no one noticed this person coming in and out. Everything was so quiet and smooth that it made one's mood soar. Li Xiqing smiled slightly, pressed the brim of his hat, and quickly returned to the side of the white sports car. From near the TL Group in Kingstown, he sped through the crowd on the highway. Because it was Sunday, there was a lot of traffic. Li Xiqing's car was stuck in the traffic jam for a long time. When he came out, it had been more than 20 minutes. Looking at the time, it was already 7:49. Suddenly, a deafening clap of thunder came from the sky. At the same time, the sapphire earrings on his ears seemed to ring. Li Xiqing pressed the earring, and Jing Sao's voice immediately came over. "Come back." She came back at the last minute. "She will be here soon." Li Xiqing's heart skipped a beat, and his eyes suddenly became cold and sharp. "Why? She seems to have recognized you from the photo at the amusement park yesterday. Everyone go to bed first. Kevin is dead. I will write in the morning and read it tomorrow." Chapter 6:14. Li Xiqing was shocked and his face changed slightly. How is it possible? With his disguise, even Su Qianxi did not recognize him. It was even more impossible for those people up there to recognize him. Jing Sao was not sure and said, "Most likely. Anyway, come back quickly. If she arrives and doesn't see you here, we will all be in trouble." Li Xiqing knew the seriousness of it. Looking at the time in the car, it was already 19:51 in the evening. There were only 9 minutes left before the agreed time with her. From here to Shijiang Bridge, it would take about 7 or 8 minutes. However, it would take about 20 minutes to get back from here. But it would take more than half an hour to get back from Shijiang Bridge. When will she arrive? Jingsaw called him at this time, so she should not arrive soon. Unless Tang Minjing came back without telling Jingsaw. 20 minutes at the latest. Jingsaw threw another bomb. Li Xiqing's face was more gloomy, for years of experience had sharpened his arrogance and sharpness into his bones, and he did not show any of it on his face. But even so, at this moment, Li Xiqing could not help but be slightly shocked. Had she already begun to suspect Jingsaw? She was fine before. Was Jingsaw exposed in just 2 days? A pair of phoenix eyes narrowed slightly, and he began to think secretly. Tang Minjing was a gun sent by the people above. This woman alone was nothing to be afraid of. What was terrible was that this gun was loyal to the people above. If this gun was disturbed, the people above would certainly not let them go. Above, not only Bo Xiao, but also the entire Bo Group. The Bo Group, on the surface, was a business of musical instruments, and its family also had many people who learned musical instruments. But in fact, the Bo Group began to decline from Bo Xiao's father's generation. About 7 or 8 years ago, the current head of the Bo Group, that is Bo Xiao's father, had begun to get involved in this. TL was just a cover. The real money laundering was in the Bo Group. For so many years, Jingsaw had been lurking in the Tang family, because Tang Jinghao had a close relationship with the Bo Group. In recent years, there had finally been progress. After a while, he could completely solve them. No matter what, it could not be destroyed by him at this time. However, she was still waiting for him. He had an appointment with her at 8 o'clock. Be there or be square. With that woman's temper, would she really wait for him? Hurry up. For the first time, Jingsaw roared at him in a panic. If we are discovered, what we have done over the past few years will not only be in vain, but we may also lose our lives. You might want to die, but I don't. Got it. I'll go back now. Li Xiqing's face was dark. Try to stall her. He had to be there in 20 minutes. Otherwise, not only the deployment of the past 4 years would be destroyed, but even Jingsaw would be implicated by him. In front of him, he seemed to see Su Qianxi's soft smiling face. Her cheeks were slightly red, and her eyes were like a naive deer. See, you don't leave. Li Xiqing's heart ached slightly, and he suddenly felt a sense of helplessness in his chest. He was afraid that he would have to miss his appointment again. I'm sorry. In the pitch-black sky, rolling dark clouds were dense. From time to time, electric snakes would scuttle across, thunder would suddenly appear, and lightning would strike. Chapter 6:15. Raising his head, he saw large drops of rain pattering down from the sky. A drop of water hit her eyelashes, and it quickly rolled down her eyes. It was raining. It was raining so hard. She looked at her watch under the light. It was 8:38 p.m. He was late, a full 38 minutes late. And she had waited for a whole hour. Why is he not here yet? Did he forget? Did he forget that there was another her waiting for him? She picked up her cell phone and wanted to make a call, but she could not make the call. The screen of the cell phone was hit by the raindrops and quickly covered with a layer of water. Su Qianxi's eyes flickered. In her dark and clear eyes, the original joy faded bit by bit. But soon, she curled her lips and gave a self-deprecating smile. This is the result of daydreaming. Except for an online name, she knew nothing about him. She even imagined that this person was very likely to be Li Xiqing, very likely to be him. But now, this possibility could be completely ruled out. If it was Li Xiqing, he would not let her wait for so long, would he? If it was Li Xiqing, he would definitely come, right? The rain was getting heavier and heavier. Perhaps because the rain was too cold, Su Qianxi only felt that her eyes were burning. The warm liquid ran down her cheeks. She looked up at the luxurious Kingstown Bridge, curled her lips and choked with sobs. You deserve it. It was not him. It must not be him. If it was him, he would definitely come. He loved her so much that he would not let her get wet in the rain, and he would not let her wait. If it was him, he would probably rush over and hug her, warning her sternly, "Don't come here again," or "Don't get wet in the rain again." Then he would carry her home, help her undress, and help her take a shower. That was Li Xiqing. Li Xiqing would not break his promise. He definitely would not. Leaning against the railing, Su Qianxi's hair was already wet. However, Su Qianxi did not feel cold. She felt like her heart was being torn apart. Under the heavy rain, Su Qianxi held her cell phone and burst into tears. However, she should not cry at this time, right? What a ridiculous scene. If someone saw it, they would definitely laugh at her. He laughed at her for overestimating herself, at her daydreaming, at her imagination, at her insanity. Su Qianxi also felt ridiculous. Forcing herself to laugh, she let out a laugh, but it was mixed with the sound of crying. Crying and laughing, she was like a psycho. That's right, isn't he a psychopath? She had long been a lunatic. Everyone said that she was delusional, and no one believed her. Everyone looked at her with sympathy. They sympathized with her stupidity and stupidity. Now even she began to sympathize with herself. A gust of wind blew, and waves surged on the surface of the river. Su Qianxi looked at the boundless dark river, laughed, and said loudly, "Su Qianxi, how can you be so cheap? What a cheap bastard. Too cheap, too cheap. What right do you have to be so cheap?" Now she did not even have the right to be cheap. Do you think you are still the Su Qianxi from before? Su Qianxi turned and walked toward the Bugatti, muttering to herself. It seemed to be self-mockery, or maybe it was just a statement. Without Li Xiqing, you are nothing. Dash. Chapter 616. The air conditioner was on in the car, and Su Qianxi shivered. Reaching out to turn off the air conditioner, Su Qianxi slowly started the car and drove on the way home. Just behind Su Qianxi, a long black Bentley was quietly parked by the bridge. Li Jinnan watched the Bugatti leave, and there was anger in his eyes. But more than that, it was pity. However, it was precisely at a time like this that he couldn't go. Li Xiqing was still alive. He was still alive. He was his brother, the most respected and worshipped brother. He would come back sooner or later. Because he was Li Jinnan, so he could not. The Bugatti slowly went away, and the black Bentley slowly followed just out of her sight, until he saw the car driving back to the old house, and into the front yard. Li Jinnan's eyes slightly dimmed. Turn around and go home. Captain Li was sitting on the sofa telling stories to the children. Li Mosen and Li Jianyue were sitting on the sofa, and Li Jianxian was sitting on the ground holding a pillow, listening with relish. When he was fascinated, the sound of the door opening came from outside. Qin Shuhua and Li Xiao were watching TV. Sensing the door opening, they also looked over. Su Qianxi was soaked, and her eyes were a little red. She looked very embarrassed. Qin Shuhua was shocked and quickly greeted her. "What happened, Su Qianxi? How did you get like this?" "Mom," Li Jianyue shouted, and Li Jianxian also looked over. Su Qianxi glanced at the children and shook her head at Qin Shuhua. She forced a smile and shook her head. "It's okay. It's raining heavily outside. I couldn't avoid it and got wet." "Then you crying like this because of the rain?" When Qin Shuhua was about to say it, Li Xiao pulled her hand. Su Qianxi saw it and smiled. "Dad, Mom, I'm going to take a shower first." Captain Li saw something was wrong and urged, "Hurry up and take a shower. Don't catch a cold." "Okay." Su Qianxi quickly walked in and returned to the room. The old man sighed faintly. His cloudy old eyes were filled with deep sorrow. After driving the children to bed, Captain Li sat in front of Qin Shuhua and Li Xiao with his walking stick and said, "Other than when Xiqing was there, when have you ever seen Qianqian cry like this?" Hearing Captain Li's words, Qin Shuhua's eyes became red. These days, she has been thinking that Xiqing came to see her. When she went out, she was so beautiful. Could it be? Li Xiqing had been dead for more than 4 years, and she still could not forget him. What should she do? How pitiful. Although Li Xiqing was her son, Qin Shuhua did not want her to remarry. However, how could Su Qianxi bear it if it went on like this? The old man sighed faintly and shook his head. "We can't let her go on like this. Let Ihan take her to the doctor tomorrow. Ihan is a very good child." Qin Shuhua and Li Xiao looked at each other without saying a word. Jing Sa was extremely scared. It had been 15 minutes since she called for Li Xiqing. However, there was no sign that the boy had arrived yet. This made Jing Sa nervous. Her heart, which had been calm after being undercover for 7 or 8 years, suddenly became nervous. Chapter 6:17. Come back, come back, come back. If you don't come back, we will all die. Jingsao's heart was pounding. Suddenly, there was a commotion outside, accompanied by the sound of high heels hitting the ground. God, so fast. Jingsaw subconsciously held her breath and pressed the transmission device hidden under her collar. Hurry up, she is coming. The voice was very low, and it seemed insignificant under the sharp sound of high heels and the noise. Jingsaw tried to calm herself down a little, took a deep breath, and immediately, the expression on her face returned to its previous state. No matter what, hold her back. Tang Minjing's tall figure walked in high heels, holding the phone and explaining something to the other side with a smile. Seeing Tang Minjing was so uneducated, Jingsaw already knew what was going on. The only people who could make Tang Minjing behave like this must be people from above. She bowed her head slightly, her body slightly bent. Jingsaw stood in front of the big iron gate and shouted, "Hello, Mississippi." Tang Minjing nodded and said, "Okay, I will confirm it and take a short video for you. But you have seen my defense here. How can he escape? And that guy's drug addiction is so strong. Even if he escapes, he will certainly not be able to resist." Jingsaw did not hear what was said on the other side. Tang Minjing sneered and said, "You are just speculating. Look at that person. How is he like Li Xiqing? Li Xiqing does not have such a non-mainstream hobby, dyeing his hair and wearing earrings. And how can Li Xiqing have such great strength? Don't you know how muscles are for drug addicts? If he had that strength, he would have run away long ago. Why is he still staying here to be ordered by us? And he escaped again and again, and was chased by us." There seemed to be some excitement on the other side, and a faint voice came. "Anyway, quickly confirm if he is still here." No. Jingsaw even became short of breath. Li Xiqing should not be back so soon. What to do? Tang Minjing quickly hung up the phone and looked at Jingsaw. "Open the door. What are you waiting for?" Jingsaw felt that her heart was about to jump out. She lowered her head slightly and said, "That guy just took the medicine and should be asleep. He is inside, and he can't run away." Hearing this, Tang Minjing raised her eyebrows and asked, "What did you do to him? Don't dare to open the door, could it be?" Jingsaw's heart skipped a beat. She quickly shook her head and said, "No, it's just what?" In Jingsaw's mind, countless thoughts came up. However, there was no one inside, no one. What should he do now? Was he going to let her in just like that? Jingsaw's heart was pounding. Even when she was undercover for the first time, she was not so nervous. Tang Minjing looked at Jingsaw and felt even more suspicious. She said, "Jingsaw, I trust you very much. Open the door." Jingsaw lowered her head slightly, nodded, and took out a bunch of keys from her pocket. Usually, when Jingsaw opened the door, she was not fast, but in front of Tang Minjing, she never dared to delay. But today, Jingsaw's movements seemed to be deliberately slowed down, unspeakably slow. Something was wrong. Chapter 6:18. Jingsaw's heart was about to jump out of her throat, and she said loudly, No. God, did this bastard come back or not?" Jingsaw felt like she was going crazy, holding Tang Minjing's hand tightly, with an unspeakable panic on her face. Tang Minjing felt even more suspicious, pushing Jingsaw away, and opening the doors one after another. A big iron door, a big wooden door, and then a big railing door. After several layers of defense, Tang Minjing opened the last barrier. As soon as she entered, she turned on the big fluorescent light. Jingsaw's face instantly became pale. Looking in, the first thing that entered his eyes was a huge solid iron gate with a huge lock. However, in the big room, there was no one. The quilt that should have been bulging was folded, and the pillow was placed on the quilt. Tang Minjing's face changed, walked in quickly and roared, "Where is he? Did he run away?" Jingsaw's body almost turned to jelly, but she quickly calmed herself down and called, "Mr. Li?" "What?" An impatient voice came from the toilet. This voice was full of impatience, but it was Li Xiqing's voice. Jingsaw almost knelt down, scared that her heart was about to fly out. She had already cursed in her heart, But at this time, Jing-saw needed to calm down. What are you doing? Tang Minjing breathed a sigh of relief, turned to look at Jing-saw and said, Isn't he still here? Why are you so nervous? Jing-saw was speechless for a moment. Suddenly, she heard the sound of flushing in the toilet. A tall figure came out, his back slightly bent, and he did not look as domineering as he used to. His short black hair was a bit uneven, because he had been trimmed for a long time. Li Xiqing wore a wrinkled shirt, but in such an environment, his expression was still full of arrogance and laziness. Slowly putting down his sleeve, Li Xiqing returned to the bed and sat down. He glanced at Tang Minjing and sneered. What? You swallowed half of my medicine. What else do you want now? Tang Minjing finally understood why Jing-saw was so nervous. Turning around, Tang Minjing glared at Jing-saw and asked, You swallowed half of his medicine? Jing-saw looked more nervous and took a step back. Seeing Jing-saw's expression, Tang Minjing's face softened. She turned to look at Li Xiqing and sneered. It seems that even without half of the medicine, you are still fine. You won't die so soon, right? Li Xiqing stared at her with a sullen face and glanced at the blood stains on his white shirt sleeve. Ha ha ha. Tang Minjing was so happy that she turned around and glanced at Jing-saw. What are you afraid of? You are one of us. Just keep him alive, but you have to be careful. Jing-saw seemed to be relieved and overjoyed. She nodded and said, Yes, miss. Tang Minjing took out her cell phone and took a video of Li Xiqing. Then she sent it to the people on the phone and said, Look, I have him here. Don't worry. Twisting her waist and walking out, Jing-saw gave him a deep look before turning off the light and locking the door. Chapter 619. TL and LS had been cooperating for less than a month. Just at the last moment of the cooperation, LS broke out a major piece of news. There was a problem with the contract provided by TL. This was a trap within a trap. If LS fulfilled its contractual obligations according to the contract, then LS would lose more than 1 billion yuan. Fortunately, the vice president of LS, Li Jinnan, discovered it in time and used it as evidence to take TL to court. This matter suddenly caused a sensation in the entire business circle. For a time, the entire TL group was in chaos. However, at this juncture, several other partners of TL actually requested to terminate the contract at the same time, and were willing to pay a large amount of compensation to terminate the contract. In less than a month, TL Group, which was originally a well-known domestic company, suddenly carried a major debt, and the entire company was in a panic. TL's corporate image in China also plummeted. Within TL, the vice president, whose status was second only to Tang Qing, absconded with the money when TL's stock market plummeted. However, on the 28th day, the two sides suddenly negotiated privately. Ms. Tang Qing, the main person in charge, paid a very satisfactory compensation to LS Group on behalf of TL Group. After this matter, Tang Minjing's status in the eyes of the people above was not as good as before. Without a doubt, the benefits he received were also greatly reduced. Li Xiqing was lying in the small room, listening to Jing-saw talking to him about these things he had caused, and his lips curled. As expected, all of these things were within his calculations. TL had collapsed. In less than 2 days, Tang Minjing would definitely come to him with the people above. If he guessed correctly, at most 3 days, the Bo family would ask to transfer him. At that time, he could enter the Bo family in one fell swoop. The stock market of LS had been rising recently. In less than a month, the Li family had reached its peak in recent years, and it was still rising. The good result was all thanks to the cooperation between L and Li Jinnan. It had been 25 days since L stood her up. Su Qianxi sat in the office yawning. This matter was like a dandelion in her heart, blown away by the wind, but there were still umbrella-shaped flying catkins, appearing from time to disturb her thoughts. For example, today, in Su Qianxi's mind, she thought of the question again. Who is L? At the same time, a message appeared on the computer. L. Sorry, I had something very important to do that day. Su Qianxi looked at the line for a long while before reaching out her hand and typing on the keyboard. Whatever, Li Xiqing looked at her words and felt very uncomfortable. He couldn't imagine what it would be like when Su Qianxi said those words, with such an expression and attitude. It must be very sad. Li Xiqing felt even more guilty, but he did not reply. The door was opened from the outside, and Jing Sa came in. She looked at him deeply and said, "The people from above are here to see you." Li Xiqing pretended to be surprised and panicked, but in his heart, he was very calm. "It was finally here. Do you know that I've been waiting for you for a long time?" Elle did not reply. Although it was expected, she still couldn't help feeling disappointed. Was this guy's apology serious? No sincerity at all. Lowering his eyes, the phone on the table vibrated. It was a WeChat message. "Louis Han. Tonight, Kingstown Tower, top floor 730, I will wait for you. I recommend my friend Su Jishui's new book, Hidden Husband, Playing with Heartbeat. Hey, you don't move. Don't move your mouth." Chapter 620. Louis Han. Tonight, top floor 730, I will wait for you. She and Louis Han had not been in contact for a month. In the past month, Louis Han had not appeared in her sight. However, Grandpa mentioned Louis Han in front of her from time to time, praising him. Every time she heard it, she just smiled and did not speak. Seeing this message from Louis Han, she picked up her phone and replied, "What's wrong?" "Louis Han. Something urgent," crying. Su Qianxi. "Well, do you have dinner? If you do, I will skip dinner later." Louis Han. "Must have dinner," Su Qianxi. "Okay, then I will work overtime." Louis Han. "Okay." Su Qianxi called her family and told them that she was busy in the company until 7 o'clock. Then she went downstairs and drove to Kingstown Tower. The highest floor of Kingstown Tower was the 108th floor. The sightseeing elevator was transparent. Su Qianxi looked at the night view around her and felt unprecedentedly peaceful. The top floor of Kingstown Tower was a sky garden. To come here, it required expensive tickets, so there would not be many people coming up. However, it was the first time for Su Qianxi to see such a quiet place. It was dark around, and Su Qianxi was slightly night blind. Looking up, the moon was bright, and the stars were sparse. The wind was a bit strong, blowing the hair on Su Qianxi's forehead gently fluttering. Carefully sticking out her foot, she called, "Ihan?" There was no response. Suddenly, there were blazing lights around her. Su Qianxi's eyes were slightly hurt by the sudden light, and she subconsciously tilted her head and closed her eyes. Coming back to herself, she looked forward and saw that the lights in front of her were arranged neatly, forming a beautiful and wide path. On the path, there were beautiful colorful roses, and the faint fragrance of roses filled the air. Just on the left and right sides of the path, there were beautiful and luxurious lights. Colorful lights surrounded the clear photos. There were photos of Su Qianxi in high school. At that time, her long black hair was tied into 2 ponytails that hung over her shoulders. She was holding a lunchbox in her hands and looking ahead. The quality was not high, taken by Louis Han. She stepped on the rose petals and walked along the path. Looking behind him, there were some who were smiling, some who were blaming him, some who were happy, some who were crying, and some who were scolding him with their hands on their hips, from a young and inexperienced girl. She slowly began to become a mature and gentle woman. She was gentle and playful. In the middle part, Su Qianxi began to hold the baby in her arms. Gradually, the baby became bigger and bigger, from 0 years old to more than 3 years old. The number of children had also increased from 2 to 3. After the photos arrived, it was a group photo of Su Qianxi and Louis Han. When they were in high school, the two of them had their arms around each other's shoulders, smiling at the camera and making peace signs. Su Qianxi looked over with a smile on her face. But when she saw the last one, memories flooded in. Her eyes softened, and her gaze fell on the figure gradually appearing at the end of the path. Louis Han was holding a large bouquet of red roses in his hands. It was rare for him to dress up today. She didn't wear glasses, and even had her hair styled. Very handsome. However, Su Qianxi's smile suddenly faded. Looking at Louis Han, her expression was complicated. Chapter 621. Louis Han noticed the change in her expression and smiled. Holding a large bouquet of roses, he slowly walked up to her. Su Qianxi looked at him and felt scared for no reason. Subconsciously, she wanted to retreat and escape. However, when she saw his affectionate eyes, she suddenly lost the courage to escape. Louis Han approached step by step, with a sunny and handsome smile on his face. Looking at Su Qianxi, he said, "Qianqian, you are early." "Yes, I'm early." The big clock on the top floor showed that it was only 7:13. However, Louis Han knew her very well and had already expected that she would arrive early. Holding the flowers in his hand, Louis Han slightly moved forward and asked, "Let's eat first." Su Qianxi reached out, but did not take it. Her hands paused in the air. In her mind, she suddenly thought of one thing. He seemed to have never given her flowers. They had been married for a year, and they had been together for a year. She had experienced all kinds of details, thoughtfulness and warmth, but he had never given her flowers. Su Qianxi was a bit dazed, staring at the brilliant 99 roses in front of her. But soon, she looked up and looked at Louis Han. Louis Han was looking at her, with a pair of peach blossom eyes with infinite tenderness. Putting the flowers in her hand, Louis Han walked directly behind her, gently pushed her and said, "I made you your favorite steak and soup. Do you want to try my new dishes?" Su Qianxi was gently pushed by him, holding a large bouquet of roses, and soon saw a table. On the table, there were 2 covered plates, and in the center was a beautiful flower-shaped candle side by side. The flame was covered by a white glass lamp. The wind was a bit strong, but the flame was still intact. Su Qianxi was pushed to the table, and Louis Han pulled out a chair for her. "Miss Su, please sit down." Su Qianxi looked at his expectant and handsome face, pursed her lips and said, "Han, sit down first." Louis Han pulled out the chair, gently pushed her to sit down and said, "If you have anything to say it after dinner, okay?" Su Qianxi felt like there was something in her heart that could not be vented. Uncomfortable, indescribably uncomfortable. She and Louis Han should not be like this. Louis Han helped her open the lid. The steaming steak was still smoking, and it seemed to have been cooked not long ago. Exquisite soup, exquisite dishes, and exquisite desserts in front of him. They were all Su Qianxi's favorites, but they looked different from what she usually ate. Louis Han knew her. Even Li Xiqing did not know her, as well as Louis Han did. She wiped her hands with a wet paper towel, picked up the spoon and took a sip. Very fragrant, very strong. It could be seen that he had put a lot of effort into it. "But, Han." "Qianqian." Louis Han interrupted her and smiled. "Let's eat first, okay?" He was afraid that she wouldn't be able to eat anymore. He was afraid that she would never want to see him again. Today, he had decided to do this, and he had already mentally prepared himself. Or step into heaven, or he would be consigned to eternal damnation. Su Qianxi looked at him and said, "I think of you as a good friend always." "I know." Louis Han stood up and came to her side, looking down at her. "But I don't want a friend. I want you. Dash. Chapter 622. Although she had expected it, hearing it for real, Su Qianxi still panicked and quickly stood up. However, Louis Han reached out and quickly pressed her down. Her pair of eyes, under the dazzling and resplendent lights around her, looked like a demon, gorgeous and beautiful to the extreme. He looked at her, his eyes full of anxiety. Louis Han slowly said, "Why don't we make a bet?" Su Qianxi was fascinated by his eyes and subconsciously asked, "What? Didn't you insist that he is still alive?" "Yes, he is still alive." Su Qianxi blurted out without hesitation. Looking at him, she said firmly, "Last time, my daughter and I were saved by him. If it were not for him, I'm afraid we would have fallen to our deaths." Hearing this, Louis Han felt a bit sad. He was dead. He was dead. Everyone knew he was dead. But why was she unwilling to accept it? Looking at her, his eyes filled with pity, Louis Han slowly said, "Then let's make a bet." Su Qianxi pursed her lips and looked at him without speaking. If he is still alive, if the person last time is really him, then he will definitely come back. He hates me, you know. Louis Han smiled self-mockingly. He wants to beat me up every time he sees me. So he will never tolerate you marrying me, right? Yes, very right. In the past, she did not understand Lu Yihan's feelings for her. But he had seen it clearly. Therefore, he tried to keep Lu Yihan away from her. Every time he saw Lu Yihan, it was like seeing an enemy, and he quickly hid her behind him. Su Qianxi knew all this. Hearing Lu Yihan's words, she nodded. So, he will not tolerate you marrying me. If he is not dead and is still alive, he will definitely come back and make trouble. Lu Yihan looked at her with a bit of secret begging in his eyes. You know his methods and his character best, don't you? Yes, he will not accept it. Su Qianxi's eyes trembled, looked at him, and asked, You mean we can use this method to force him out? If Li Xiqing did not want to come out, she could not find him. Yes. Lu Yihan nodded against his will. Try it. Marry me. If he comes out, I will let go and never bother you again. But if he doesn't come out, can you give me a chance? Yihan. Children need a father. Lu Yihan looked at her. You are not alone. Qianqian, you have children. The 3 children have already accepted me. If you let me be their father, it would be the most suitable, wouldn't it? Do you want to raise 3 children by yourself and be a single parent for the rest of your life? This is not fair to the child, Qianqian. However, if she accepted him, it would be the greatest injustice to him. Li Xiqing had lived in her heart for 2 lifetimes. Other than him, there was no room for another man. Su Qianxi looked at him, her eyes slightly wet, and her voice slightly choked. You know, I have been waiting for him. It is impossible for me to regard you as anything other than a friend. Yihan, try it. If he is still alive, he will definitely come back to stop you from marrying me. Qianqian, don't you want to see him? Chapter 623. How could she not want to? For the past 4 years, she had dreamed of seeing him. Every day when she woke up and could not see him, she felt empty. However, in this way, would he really appear? Would he? She did not know. Li Xiqing was more sophisticated than she had imagined. Why he hid, she did not know. Why he did not come back, she did not know. However, she wanted to see him very much. He was still alive, he must be alive. Last time at the amusement park. That person must be him. It must be. Lu Yihan saw that she was moved and said again. If he loves you, he will come back. If he was still alive. She finally couldn't hold it anymore and burst into tears. Lu Yihan took out a velvet box from his pocket, knelt on one knee, opened the box, looked at her and said slowly, Marry me, will you? Su Qianxi's tears fell even more fiercely. Looking at him, she pushed the box and said, Yihan, I will not love you, you know that. These straightforward words were like a butcher's knife, ruthlessly chopping into his heart. In an instant blood splashed, and it was terrible. However, Lu Yihan still forced a smile and said, I know, I don't care. Their days were still long, very long. There was no reason that he couldn't be compared to a dead man, right? Li Xiqing was already dead. Sooner or later, she would forget him and accept him, Lu Yihan. She would accept him sooner or later, and he could afford to wait. Su Qianxi looked at him, put her hands behind her back and said, I care. I want to wait for him to come back clean. She had guarded her heart. She also wanted to guard her body. Because of her insistence, Li Xiqing did not have a funeral from beginning to end. Although the public had magnified the news of his death to every corner of the country, she believed that he was not dead. She would not let him come back and see the word widowed written on the marriage column of his wife. She would not let him come back and see the name of another man written on her marriage column. This was her only purity for him. She loved him, and she wanted to keep all the best of her for him. Even if he didn't want to come back, she would stay for him. She wouldn't have any regrets when she grew old and died. Lu Yihan's eyelids drooped, and his hopeful eyes dimmed inch by inch. He pursed his lips and remained silent. Su Qianxi took a deep breath and choked. Yihan, thank you. Lu Yihan felt that his eyes were a little hot, and the sour feeling in his heart was so overwhelming that he almost couldn't breathe. He didn't want her to thank him. All he wanted was her. That was all. Why? When Li Xiqing was alive, Lu Yihan could not compete with him. Now Li Xiqing was dead, and he still couldn't beat him? It was as if a piece of his heart was missing. A single word of thanks was not enough to make up for it. Louis Han did not speak, still maintaining that posture in front of her. After a long while she whispered, "I want to try." Just 4 words, but the fire in Louis Han's heart, which he thought had been extinguished without a trace, was ignited again. Looking up in surprise, Louis Han looked at her incredulously. "You're right. If he still loves me, he will come back. This is his home, his children, his parents, and his grandfather. If he is still alive, there is no reason for him not to come back. Just once let her try." Chapter 624. This Weibo post shocked a lot of netizens and people in the business circle. In less than an hour, this Weibo post had become a trending topic. Curses, blessings, sighs, mockery, doubts, and all kinds of comments had reached more than 80,000. This Weibo post was very simple, with only 4 words, an emoji, and an attached picture. The attached picture was a long light path, with 2 rows of photos on the left and right. The path was covered with rose petals, a bunch of big roses, and a ring. Along with it, there was Su Qianxi's delicate and gentle face, with a light smile. Next to her there was a man. Only half of the man's face was taken, but this half was enough to attract many girls. There were also people who were familiar enough to recognize who this deity was. Su Qianxi. Bless me, smile. There was an uproar below, private messages and all sorts of messages popping up endlessly. Your mom blew up Babibi. No way? She was at the amusement park not long ago. And now she has a new lover? Su Qianxi, handsome scheming bitch. Bless my goddess. It's been 4 years. The child needs his father, love. Meng 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 yao. You should have done this earlier. It's good that you got over it. Mr. Li will bless you in heaven, candle. Happy 888888. My goddess is so beautiful. Who is that man? I can look at his profile for a year. Color. A charming and sexy woman. You can't pretend anymore, right? It must be very fun to have such a big company all by yourself. You even have a boy toy. I admire you. There were all kinds of comments. Su Qianxi glanced at them and collapsed on the bed, looking up at the ceiling. Suddenly her phone rang. It was Li Jinan. Is it Louis Han? Yes. Li Jinan was silent for a moment and asked, "Do you like him?" Su Qianxi held the phone and did not answer. "Sister-in-law, you can't marry him." Li Jinan's voice was firm. "Why?" "Because my second brother is still fine. He is not dead." Su Qianxi's heart skipped a beat, feeling sad for no reason. "I know. Then why did you promise him?" "I want to try." She lay on her back. "If he knows the news, will he come back to stop me? If he cares, he will come back, right?" Li Jinan was quiet for a moment and asked, "Did you see the WeChat message I sent you?" "No. Let me see." Su Qianxi put the phone on speaker and clicked into WeChat. She found that Li Jinan had sent her several messages, and there were many unread messages from various acquaintances. She clicked on Li Jinan's chat window and saw a few pictures. The first one was a screenshot of the chat history. Li 3. Since you can send messages, why don't you come back? I'm fine, don't worry about me. Su Qianxi's pupils shrank, unable to believe it. What did that mean? Admitted it. Was he really Li Xiqing? Su Qianxi's heart raced. Glancing at the time, it was more than a month ago. The second picture was a photograph. This was the gate of a villa. A beautiful red BMW was parked at the door. Tang Qing was smiling and opening the door, holding a mobile phone in her hand. Undoubtedly, this villa belonged to Tang Minjing. Chapter 625. Su Qianxi's heart was pounding. Vaguely, it seemed that she had discovered a big secret. However, that feeling instantly disappeared without a trace. Finished. Li Jinan's voice came over, and his voice rose slightly. Come out to the living room. Su Qianxi immediately turned over and ran out barefoot. Li Jinan was wearing a tight-fitting t-shirt, which accentuated the contours of his muscles. He was sitting on the sofa, half bent over the coffee table, fiddling with a laptop. Holding the phone in his hand, he looked up and saw her. He hung up the phone and waved at her. Su Qianxi sat down, and her eyes fell on his laptop. There was a small video playing on it. Looking at the angle and the light, it should have been taken with a hidden small camera. Probably something like a brooch or a tie. Jing saw, I'm here to deliver the medicine. The woman called Jing saw stood up, picked up the so-called medicine, dipped it in some, smelled it and nodded. Okay, go out. There's food. The people inside haven't eaten yet, right? Oh, Jing saw took it. Leave it. It's better to eat it while it's hot. Miss Tang just said to let him finish eating early and start working early. There are still very important things to do. Jing saw heard this and was very impatient. She waved her hand. Why is the person who delivered things so annoying today? What is he talking about? He won't die. Don't worry. Well, then I'm going. Go away. Jing Saw's temper was really bad. She threw the food prepared for the people inside on the table next to her and continued to play games. The person could not get close, and the direction of the camera quickly changed. Li Jinan turned off the video, looked at Su Qianxi and said, My brother is locked inside. Su Qianxi stared at the darkness on the screen, and an uncontrollable anger rushed up, making her even a little short of breath. The last time you saw it, the one who saved you and Ursu in the amusement park, should also be my brother. Li Jinan said lightly, using the mouse to click on his chat account and the chat window with L. The two sentences that Su Qianxi just saw suddenly appeared on the screen. This L is also my brother. He takes drugs. Su Qianxi turned to look at Li Jinan. Tang Minjing gave him drugs. You heard the recording. You fought with him before. You should know that he's skilled and strong. Does he look like a drug addict? Just by looking at the short blurry video in the amusement park, Li Jinan knew that the man couldn't have taken drugs. He was able to hold Su Qianxi firmly with one hand. Even for people who did not take drugs, few could achieve such arm strength. No, she blurted out without hesitation. That's right. He must have his reasons for not coming back. Second sister-in-law, don't you know how he treats you? The three of us may have some differences in our personalities, but our tempers are the same. We are all from the same family. Li Jinan looked at Su Qianxi with his deep and dark eyes, hiding a trace of emotion that Su Qianxi could not understand. His voice was calm as he said, What he has decided will not change. He has decided on you, and only you. He only has one home. As long as he is still alive, he will definitely come back. Therefore, she could not marry Lu Yihan. That kind of guy did not deserve her. Chapter 626. Su Qianxi was destined to be with only Li Xiqing. Li Jinan looked at her, and clearly saw the change in her eyes. He said in a low voice, When it comes to him, you can't calm down. Fortunately, with her cleverness, she understood immediately. She was a little confused and looked up at Li Jinan. Li Jinan actually looked very similar to Li Xiqing. Especially that pair of eyes, the same beautiful eye shape, and the same pitch-black pupils. However, compared to Li Xiqing, Li Jinan was less indifferent and arrogant. In the past 4 years, the arrogance he had when he just came out of the army had been polished. At 29 years old, Li Jinan had a unique charm of a mature man. Unlike Li Xiqing's indifference and arrogance, Li Jinan was always indifferent, like the stars and the moon. He was clearly in front of her, but she could not see through him. Many times, he just looked at her lightly, but there was always a kind of depth that Su Qianxi could not understand. Su Qianxi's heart was in a mess. When she met his eyes, she was even more upset. Uncle, what should I do now? Panic, she couldn't stop panicking. Su Qianxi had completely lost her composure at this moment. She had lost her mind, and could only look at Li Jinan for help. I don't know what his plan is, but I don't think it will be a small matter. Li Jinan looked at his computer, and quickly pulled up the contract with TL. This contract was made by my brother. This trap was used by him when he framed Tang Zhenghao. The technique is exactly the same. It is certain that he is now TL, and TL has declared bankruptcy. I think my brother's purpose has been at least half achieved. His fingers jumped on the keyboard, and Li Jinan quickly pulled up another page. Bo's musical instruments. Bo's group music Bo Xiao. Su Qianxi's eyes widened. There were two strings in her mind that quickly collided. Li Jinnan looked at her expression and knew that she had figured it out. He said, "The company behind TL is the Bo Group. TL's rapid development over the years has an inseparable relationship with the Bo Group. It's worth mentioning that although TL has been developing rapidly over the years, there are only a few big deals. Many of them are collaborations with small companies, but the deals have reached tens of millions, some even hundreds of millions." Money laundering. Su Qianxi had fully understood. She looked at Li Jinnan and asked, "You mean he is probably dormant now? He wants to?" "Yes." "How do you know?" Su Qianxi could not believe it. "This is too incredible. Did he tell you?" "I'm just guessing, but I'm pretty close to the mark." Years ago, when Li Xiqing failed to arrest Tang Jinghao at the airport and returned home with injuries, he had already told Li Xiqing, "Nothing ventured, nothing gained." Li Jinnan saw all of Li Xiqing's troubles when his family was in trouble again and again. Therefore, this was very likely the reason. Otherwise, why didn't he come back? In addition to this, Li Jinnan really could not think of any other reason. However, Su Qianxi's heartbeat suddenly accelerated a lot. Subconsciously, she thought of her previous life. Chapter 627. Su Qianxi looked at Li Jinnan, her heart beating faster and faster. The guess in her heart seemed to have been verified. The more she thought about it, the more likely she felt it was. At this time in his previous life, Li Jinnan was doing something that made Grandpa and his parents angry. Now Li Xiqing was missing. He was still alive, but he did not want to go home. Now thinking about it, it was very likely that he did not want to go home. What Li Jinnan did in his previous life was just to deal with the drug dealer. Yes, it must be so. In this way, everything could be understood. The truth of the matter had gradually become clear. Su Qianxi's heart seemed to be equipped with a mirror at this moment. "Is that so, Mr. Li?" Su Qianxi had lived 2 lives, and it was the first time she had made such a bold guess. If it was really so, then she would wait. She had waited for 4 years. She would wait for him to come back even if it was another 4 years. But what about Luohan? 4 years was an extremely long period of time for anyone. For Luo Zhan, it was more like 4 centuries. In the past 4 years, he shared a room with Luohan. Every day he ate, drank, and slept. Occasionally, he helped clean up, watched porn, and played video games. However, inexplicably, after living with Luohan, the number of times he dreamed of women gradually decreased. On this day, Luo Zhan took a shower as usual and lay in bed. However, Luo Zhan had always been a light sleeper, and it was difficult for him to fall asleep. It took him a long time to fall asleep. Gradually, he began to fall asleep. He dreamt that he was lying on the bed with his naked body sprawled out on the ground. He was secretly happy. Finally, he was going to dream of doing something embarrassing with a girl. After a long time, Luo Zhan was looking forward to it. Finally, after a long time, Luo Zhan was about to smoke a cigarette with the person in his arms, but when he turned his head, he suddenly saw a tough man's face. Luo Zhan suddenly woke up with a cold sweat. Lifting the quilt, he found that his crotch was wet. However, why was the other party? That person? Damn it! What the hell? Luo Zhan lifted the quilt, jumped out of bed, and went to the bathroom to take a shower. When he came out, Luohan had already come back. Luohan was particularly handsome today. He sat on the sofa with the computer on his knees and a smile on his lips. He seemed to be in a good mood. Luo Zhan rubbed his hair with a towel, leaned over and sniffed him. There was a faint fragrance like the smell of flowers. "Hey, what's wrong with you today?" Luo Zhan threw the towel on him and said, "Are you in heat?" Luohan crumpled the towel and threw it back, laughing. F***ck off. Luo Zhan, on the other hand, had goosebumps all over his body because of his laughter. His mind suddenly remembered the subtle feeling in the dream just now. His body tightened, his legs clamped, and his eyes fell on him again. He actually felt a little thirsty. Damn it. Luo Zhan coughed and walked around the sofa to look at his computer screen. It was actually a Weibo post, and the blogger was Su Qianxi. After seeing the pictures and words on Weibo, Luo Zhan's eyes widened. and his first reaction was to blurt out, "No." Chapter 628. Louis Han turned his head to look at him, his handsome eyebrows knitted, and asked, "Why?" Luo Zhan's voice paused, and soon he looked at him with indignation and said loudly, "You are poaching her, do you know that? She is my brother's wife. That guy has been dead for so long. Do you want Qianqian to be a widow all the time?" Louis Han was upset, glared at him, and quickly turned back to look at the computer screen, which was one of the few photos they had taken together in the past few years. Luo Zhan was not very comfortable and angry. He reached out and pushed the back of Louis Han's head and said, "If she likes you, she would have accepted you long ago. She has a special liking for our second brother, and is loyal to him. Why are you still sticking to her? Aren't you a bitch? Get out." Louis Han slapped his hand away. "So what? I like it." Luo Zhan looked at his happy look and was annoyed. He said sarcastically, "You are in the right to be a mistress?" "What mistress? Li Xiqing died a long time ago, didn't he?" Louis Han turned off the computer and put it away. He looked back at Luo Zhan with displeasure and anger in his eyes. "If he was still alive, I would never have such thoughts. When he was still alive, did you see me approach her?" Luo Zhan was speechless and felt suffocated. Louis Han stood up and loosened the button of his suit. His voice was distant and meaningful. "Everyone has the right to pursue happiness. Qianqian is a good girl. Luo Zhan, you can't let her continue to stay with a dead man. It's not fair." It was not fair to her or to him. Luo Zhan felt even more suffocated. His eyes fell on the computer screen and he said, "She accepted you? Sooner or later." Louis Han took off his suit, revealing a thin light blue shirt inside. Louis Han's figure was very good. At the moment, the thin shirt was sticking to his body, outlining all the lines below. Luo Zhan glanced at it and could not look away. Seeing Louis Han's puzzled eyes, Luo Zhan rolled his eyes and turned back to his room. Closing the door, Luo Zhan found that his heart was beating surprisingly fast, and his cheeks were slightly hot. My God! Luo Zhan was going crazy. Is this a ghost? F***ck. No, I have to go to the gathering in a few days. I was scared to death. However, he could not let Su Qianxi marry this guy. How could second brother close his eyes in the netherworld? Why did she have to marry Louis Han? Luo Zhan was disappointed. He picked up his phone and sent a WeChat message to Su Qianxi. "Sister-in-law, have you really made up your mind?" Z. No, why does it have to be him? Lao Er will crawl out and beat him up. Z. You know how much second brother hates him. Z. Sigh. Louis Han watched him return to the room weirdly, laughed, unbuttoned his shirt, and quickly entered the bathroom. When he came out, there were a few new messages on his phone. Qianqian. Ihan, shall we have lunch together tomorrow? Lu Ihan smiled and replied, "Okay." He clicked on another message. It was from someone he hadn't seen for a long time. "You Lily, congratulations. You're finally going to succeed." Lu Ihan. "Thank you." When Yu Lily saw the news, she thought that she would be heartbroken and cry, but unexpectedly, her heart was very calm. There were no waves, no ups and downs. Chapter 629. 12 years. Louis Han had been with Su Qianxi for 12 years. How many 12 years could there be in one's life? Yu Lily was lying on the bed, holding the phone and opening the desktop. This was a group photo. The girl in the photo looked domineering, holding the phone in both hands to take a selfie. Just behind the girl, a man in a burgundy suit, with a slightly evil smile, crossed his arms, and a pair of blurred and beautiful eyes, looking down at the girl's face. Long time no see. Li Xiqing was blindfolded and thrown in the back seat of the car. There was a pungent perfume next to him. It was Tang Minjing. His hands were tied behind him, and his eyes were blindfolded. Li Xiqing's hearing was particularly sharp. In addition to the sound of people in this area, there was the sound of insects squeaking at night. The car drove for a long time. Li Xiqing calculated in his heart. After about 70 or 80 minutes, the car stopped. The speed was very steady, about 40 to 50 kilometers per hour, which meant that it was not far from the villa he had just come out of. From the last investigation, he had already found that TL was just a camouflage, and the real nest hiding in Kingstown was actually somewhere else. The car stopped at about 5 traffic lights on the way, went up 2 slopes, and once on the highway. Most of the time, there was noise around. That was to say, this place was in a relatively prosperous place, but now it was very quiet around here. Most likely it was downtown or a relatively high-end community or office building. Li Xiqing estimated in his heart, and was soon taken out of the car by 2 bodyguards. After entering, Li Xiqing heard the sound of a card being swiped. But the surroundings were still very quiet, until they got on the elevator. The elevator quickly rose. 2 bodyguards took a blindfolded man with his hands tied. There was no sound of doubt. People here must have been used to this kind of situation. This building was probably owned by the Bo family, but it was impossible to use the name of the Bo family, and there would be another name that was loud and would not be suspicious. However, where would this place be? Ding! About a minute later, the elevator arrived. Li Xiqing's heart slightly moved. According to the frequency and time of the elevator's rise, it should be 48 to 50 floors. There were not many high-rise buildings in the center of Kingstown. Tang Minjing did not speak from beginning to end. When they got up, she picked up the phone and said, "Hello, we are on the top floor. Should we go straight to the VIP room?" Top floor? Li Xiqing searched for similar buildings in his mind, but before he could figure out where it was, he was pulled into a room and pushed hard. Li Xiqing felt the surroundings became dark and silent. They've locked him up again. About 10 minutes later, the door was opened. The sound of high-heeled shoes stepping on the ground could be heard. At the same time, there were sounds of people scrolling through Weibo. "Hey Li Xiqing, I have great news for you." Tang Minjing's voice was sharp and deliberate, and her laughter was full of sarcasm. "It's about your wife. Do you want to hear it?" Li Xiqing listened and felt something was wrong. Pursing his red lips, he did not say anything. Tang Minjing sneered, "Boring. Stop pretending. Let me tell you, your wife is getting married." Chapter 630. His wife was getting married. What did that mean? Li Xiqing looked in Tang Minjing's direction, but his eyes were blindfolded, and he could not see anything. Tang Minjing clearly noticed that his indifferent expression suddenly became cold. His jaw tightened, exuding an indescribable charm. Seeing this, Tang Minjing slightly lowered her eyes and laughed even more sharply. She said, "Ah, what a perfect match. This Lu guy is quite handsome." Looking at the phone, she went behind Li Xiqing and took off his blindfold. "Do you want to have a look? This man is as good as you, right?" She handed the phone to Li Xiqing. In that photo, she was smiling, and beside her, half of Louis Han's face was in the mirror. The scene was really romantic. Li Xiqing's hands, which were tied behind him, unconsciously clenched. Looking at the photo, his calm breath also sped up a bit. Tang Minjing saw his reaction. Although it was extremely small, she knew him very well. His reaction was enough to show that he cared about this matter. "So heartless. You have only been dead for 4 years, and your body is not even cold yet. And this woman is already thinking about remarrying. I thought she loved you a lot." Tang Minjing took off her shoes and sat on the bed with his back facing her. Reaching out, she slowly unzipped her dress. "She used to be so good at pretending. When you were beaten half to death by my men, she cried so hard." Tang Minjing looked sympathetic. As she spoke, her upper body was already naked. Li Xiqing subconsciously looked at the mirror not far away, which reflected Tang Minjing's appearance. However, it was only a glance before he immediately looked away. Tang Minjing sneered. "With such acting skills, it is a pity that she is not in the entertainment circle. Don't you think so?" Taking off the last piece of clothing, Tang Minjing slowly leaned over and gently rubbed his back. Li Xiqing looked even colder. With a straight face, he closed his eyes and growled, "Get out!" Tang Minjing had expected this reaction, so she did not mind it at all. She straightened up, walked back to the wardrobe beside the bed, opened it and chuckled. "She doesn't want you anymore, and you're still staying chase for her? Is it worth it?" Li Xiqing pursed his lips and did not say anything. Tang Minjing put on a robe, opened a bottle of red wine, and slowly poured it into the decanter on the dining car. Taking out 2 crystal glasses, she poured the crimson liquid into them and walked to Li Xiqing, gently shaking the glasses. Barefoot, every step was slow and graceful. Her sexy wavy hair was casually tied up, with some loose strands hanging down from her forehead. It was a little messy, but it was enchanting and enchanting. Naturally, he had to first ignore her stiff and pale face. With his eyes closed, Li Xiqing clearly sensed that she had walked up to him. Tang Minjing slowly sat down in front of him, handed him one of the cups and chuckled. "Have a drink." Li Xiqing did not open his eyes and ignored her. In Tang Minjing's beautiful big eyes, there was a trace of loneliness. She put down the 2 cups and leaned forward on her knees. Li Xiqing clearly sensed her approaching, slightly turned his head, and stepped back. Chapter 631. Li Xiqing was shocked. Tang Minjing's movement caught him off guard. Caught off guard, he had already fallen on the carpet. His hands were pressed, and it hurt a little. But what made Li Xiqing even more surprised was that Tang Minjing, wearing only a thin nightgown, clung to him, then held his face with both hands and approached his lips. Li Xiqing felt nauseous and struggled to get up. At the same time, he twisted his body and kicked her away. Li Xiqing's body quickly turned to the side. Tang Minjing fell to the ground and smiled coquettishly, letting the nightgown open. 2 plump white legs crossed each other, charming and seductive. "What? Don't pretend. After so many years without a woman, don't you want one?" If it was Su Qianxi, of course he wanted one. But for Tang Minjing, Li Xiqing got up from the carpet, leaned on the edge of the sofa and ignored her. This was a suite. The living room and bedroom were independent, completely transparent, luxurious and beautiful, showing the unique style of the owner. Tang Minjing took 2 wine glasses and walked toward Li Xiqing. Gently blowing on his face, she said, "Drink this glass of wine, and I will take you to see her. How about it?" Li Xiqing fixed his eyes on her, with suspicion in his eyes. "You don't believe me?" Tang Minjing reached out and reached behind him. Li Xiqing's face suddenly became darker, and his gloomy face was full of warning. "Get out." Tang Minjing did not listen to him and said carelessly, "I'm helping you untie. What are you going to do?" "I'll do it with you if we're in bed. Do you want to try?" She reached behind him and pulled hard. The rope immediately loosened a little. Li Xiqing felt a little strange. What did this Tang Minjing want to do today? Tang Minjing leaned over and whispered, "In the past few years, you should have a lot of evidence of the Bo family's crimes, right?" Li Xiqing was caught off guard by her sudden words, and his heart skipped a beat. His dark and deep pupils suddenly shrank. Li Xiqing looked at her, pretending to be calm, narrowed his eyes and said slowly, "What? In the past few years, do you think I don't know?" Tang Minjing held her glass and chuckled. She sat in front of him and looked at him. "You are undercover, right? In the past few years, the financial information of the Bo Group has been leaked. The police have got a lot of evidence. You really hid it from me." "What do you mean?" "You invaded the Bo Group through TL, collected the transaction records and bills of the Bo Group, and then secretly transmitted them to the police. But I can't figure out how you did it. You were locked up for so long, disabled for more than a year, and started taking drugs 2 years ago. How did you do this?" Tang Minjing put the glass in front of him and chuckled. "I didn't understand it before, but now I do. You have an accomplice, right?" He looked at her coldly, expressionless. "Who is his partner?" Tang Minjing asked softly. There was a hint of sarcasm in his eyes. "Why must it be me?" Chapter 632. Li Xiqing finally untied the rest of the rope. Looking at his red hands, he loosened his muscles. Tang Minjing looked at his comfortable look, took a sip of red wine and smiled. Li Xiqing saw a red lipstick mark on the wine glass. Tang Minjing's reaction was much calmer than he had imagined. "Are you not afraid that I will run now?" "You can't run." Tang Minjing was sure. "There are so many people outside. Unless you have the ability to jump down from here, there is no way you can escape." Tang Minjing glanced at him and chuckled. "However, if you want to go down, I can take you down. It is just a matter of a word. As long as you tell me who your accomplice is, or sleep with me once, I will let you go. It has been 4 years. Li Siqing, it is not easy to go back. Don't you want to? You want to sleep with me that much? Li Siqing looked at her with a faint smile, looking down at her with disdain. Of course. Tang Minjing chuckled. Even in my dreams. Unfortunately, I don't have feelings for you. Being straightforward, this sentence was a great insult to any woman, especially for Tang Minjing, who everyone wanted to have sex with. Tang Minjing's smile was also cold. If you can't, then you can't. Did the beating 4 years ago hurt you down there too? Li Siqing ignored her and looked around the room. The decoration was beautiful, and it looked like a hotel. However, Tang Minjing had lived here for a while, so it looked like a home. Seeing that he did not speak, Tang Minjing gritted her teeth and said, "There is another way. Have you forgotten? You want me to tell you who my accomplice is? So you admit that you have an accomplice?" Li Siqing asked. Did I deny it? Tang Minjing smiled, stood up, and handed the wine glass to him. Want one? Li Siqing took it and shook it gently in his hand. I advise you to be sensible. The Bo family is already angry. They wanted to kill you directly, but I pleaded for you. If it weren't for me, you would have been killed on the road today. Tang Minjing looked at him with a pair of big eyes. Her stiff face twisted into a smile, which looked extremely ugly. Li Siqing did not speak. Looking at the big vent in front of him, his eyes were unspeakably deep. You don't believe me? Tang Minjing raised her eyebrows. Do you really want to try being killed? Yes. Li Siqing's gaze fell on her. But you don't want me to die. Do you still like me? Haha. Why didn't I find you so humorous before? Tang Minjing said, leaning toward him tentatively. Li Siqing did not refuse, and let her approach. Tang Minjing was surprised, but she quickly leaned over and put a hand on his shoulder. Li Siqing looked down at her and smiled. Tang Minjing felt her heart flutter, and her heart beat faster. He actually smiled at her? Tang Minjing was slightly absent-minded, but she soon came back to herself. No. Tang Minjing subconsciously wanted to step back, but it was too late. Li Siqing quickly chopped at the back of her neck. Chapter 633. Tang Minjing's body fell straight back, and the cup in her hand fell on the carpet. The red liquid quickly fainted on the carpet and seeped down. Li Siqing looked around coldly and opened the window. It's very windy tonight. Very windy. As soon as the window was opened, the wind poured in and blew the curtains high. Li Siqing looked down. It was very high. This was the top floor, and it was estimated that there were at least 40 floors. It was too unrealistic to jump down from here. Li Siqing pondered for a moment, looked around, and finally hid in the bathroom. He unbuttoned his pants and turned the button out. There was a small secret compartment inside. Inside the secret compartment, there was a small sealed pocket. Inside the pocket, there was a sapphire cross stud earring, and it was astonishingly placed inside. Jing saw there is a change of plan. Please support. Half an hour later, Jing Saw went to the Dongfang International Building with a tall bodyguard in black. The bodyguard in black was wearing a black leather suit. He was tall and thin, wearing a pair of sunglasses, looking powerful and domineering. The bodyguards at the door all knew Jing Saw. After greeting them one by one, Jing Saw walked to the suite where Tang Minjing was. She reached out and knocked on the door saying, "Miss, it's me." After a long while the door was opened. Jing Saw went in with the tall bodyguard. After about 10 minutes, Jing Saw came out with a smile. The bodyguard outside saw Jing Saw's expression and came over curiously. All of a sudden, he heard a clanking sound coming from inside. The sound came from the bathroom. Coupled with Jing Saw's expression, the bodyguards were even more curious and asked, "What's wrong? A man and a woman, making this kind of sound in the bathroom. What can they do?" Jing Saw glanced at the bodyguard with an expression of, "You are so ignorant. Guard well. If you need anything, go in. Don't go in and disturb them." The bodyguards also had the expression of an experienced driver, and they laughed at the same time. Jing Saw led the bodyguard she brought into the elevator again, and went down soon. The The soundproofing effect here was very good. They waited until dawn the next day. The captain of the bodyguard team received a call from above. After connecting, he heard a scolding from the other side. "Where is Tang Qing? Where the hell did that woman go? He's been in the room with Mr. Li. Put her on the phone. Whatever she's doing, give me an explanation right now." In one night, the 5 or 6 ports that she was in charge of were all seized by the police. Do you know how much she lost? It doesn't matter if we lose money or not. Those bastard cops even followed the clues to the headquarters. Let's see how she's going to solve this problem for me. The bodyguard's heart skipped a beat. He knew how serious this was. He did not care about his privacy and opened the door with the spare key card. After entering, he found that Tang Minjing was not in the room at all. How could that be? Could it be that he didn't come back to sleep for the entire night? The bodyguard was shocked and quickly went to check the bathroom door. With a twist, the door opened. Inside, Tang Minjing was tied up with a man wearing only a pair of underwear. Their mouths were covered with several layers of tape. Seeing him come in, they all struggled for help. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.